Yeah.
Meeting is now streaming live. All right.
Okay. Didn't say that before.
Okay,
We recording? Yeah, we're recording.
so are we live?
Just checking. Yep.
We're live? Okay. Sorry, everybody. We had a bit of technical difficulties.
We're finally here.
Yeah, we're finally here. So welcome everybody to Michael Jackson's book club Halloween event. We're a little bit behind. I'm here. I'm Tammy. Jeanette.
Jeanette.
Here with
I'm
Allan
Al.
Scanlan. So excited to have Allan tonight. He worked at Neverland Ranch for 15 years and he's here to share his stories about Neverland and Michael with us tonight. Welcome, Allan. Sorry.
I'm extremely honored because I haven't written a book yet. So
That's right.
I get invited on the Michael Jackson book club and I haven't written a book. I must be doing something right.
You absolutely. We're excited to, to hear about your book and share with that. So
maybe we can persuade you to write that book, Allan.
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't start that right when this COVID thing started, since I haven't worked pretty much the whole time. I probably could have got it done by now.
Now you know how much people are looking forward to it. Like yesterday, a lot of people watched Taj's live broadcast last night, and he was saying in there that, you know what, for people who knew Michael Jackson personally, it's important to share those stories and just give a shout out to those people who are willing to do that is amazing. And we're so thankful that, we are able to get to know him through you, because we don't know him personally and the world needs to know the real Michael Jackson. It's not what the tabloids are saying, that's for sure. So if Jeanette, if you want to start with the questions, we have some questions for you, Allan, and I'm sure this live stream will have some questions too. So
okay, so our first question is for you to really set the scene about how you came to work at Neverland for 15 years. First of all, how did you end up working in the carnival business?
Well, right out of high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I thought, well, I'm just going to do it for a summer. And that turned into about 15 years. And during the last, I don't know, 6 or 8 years of that, I was in California with a very large carnival. And there was a guy that came out, he owned a company that did safety inspections. He was hired by insurance companies and states and private parks and carnivals and whatnot. Anyway, he inspected the carnival that I was taking care of numerous times in California, and he was impressed with how I ran my crew and I took care of my equipment. And well, it wasn't my equipment, but the equipment I was in charge of. And I just kind of got burned out on the carnival thing and wanted to try something different. So I asked him for a job and he gave me a job. And during the course of that employment is when Mr. Jackson first purchased Neverland and started putting rides in. And at the time, his company, the company I was working for inspecting, it was, they were pretty much the only ones around doing it. And they had a great reputation. And so somebody from involved in Neverland put them in touch with our company. And so I started going out there a couple of times a year and just helping their guys learn how to do maintenance and what kind of tools they needed to purchase and whatnot. And actually after, I'm going to say a couple of years of going out there a couple of times a year, I got to know the ranch manager fairly well. And I was telling him often that I said, I had no idea what went on there. I just thought it was, Michael had this stuff in his backyard for his pleasure. But I told him, I said, you have to get somebody in here that knows this equipment from a liability standpoint. I said, I'll come in here as much as you want me to come in here, but you need to have somebody on the payroll. It's just, for liability reasons.
Yeah.
Anyway, after me telling him, and I wasn't trying to promote myself because the company I was working for, I was going all over the world and I really enjoyed it. I was getting to go to, you know, places I'd never been before, and I enjoyed it. But I don't know, the third or fourth time I told him that, he asked me, well, what do you think about working here? And so the next thing you know, I had a meeting with Norma down there in LA, and we struck a deal, and I was there.
Wow. Fate. Fate
Yep.
brought you guys together over your
It was
love
a great,
of
it was a great time. I'll tell you what, the memories I have in that place are unbelievable. Somebody in here.
wow. And when you first, so you started coming there like as a consultant?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. So when you came in as an outsider, what was your impression of Neverland? You know, what did you think what it was about? You obviously had an impression of Michael Jackson because you knew he was famous, but
Right,
you know, what was your impression?
I wasn't a starstruck person, which might be why I was successful in staying there as long as I did. But I was more impressed with, because I've been in the amusement ride business for so long. I was impressed with how beautiful the amusement park looked, and the rides were, instead of like at a typical fair when everything's all in a straight line and they're all crammed together as close as they can get. It was, you know, it was spread out and had beautiful gardens and sound systems. I mean, I was just impressed by the layout. The thought that it was Michael Jackson's didn't really, that wasn't the main reason I was so impressed. I was just impressed because, you know, whoever did this did a heck of a job. And I mean, it was a beautiful place.
That's nice. Michael probably appreciated that you appreciated that because of his attention to detail.
I have to tell you one story. I didn't really plan on like telling certain stories, but when something comes to my mind, I just have to share it.
Please do, yeah.
I'm there as a consultant, and the zipper ride, which anybody that's been to a fair has probably seen the zipper. And it has these cables that run the full length front and back that the tub's attached to. And anyway, the cables needed to be replaced. And I told him, I said, this is something that it needs to be done. It needs to be done soon. I would say before you're on the ride again. So the ranch manager asked, you know, about getting the manufacturer in. And I said, well, if the manufacturer comes and does it, it's going to cost you a lot of extra money. I said, I've done it several times. I can do it. So we made arrangements for me to come in, and I just said, just pay my expenses, you know, put me up in a room, pay my meal for the day, and I'll probably bring a helper to help me. And so anyway, so a friend of mine came with me, and in order to do that, you have to lay, it's a big, tall ride. It sticks up in the air 40 or 50 feet, and you have to you do some preparing. Anyway, you lay this thing down on the trailer. And of course, nobody at the ranch had ever seen it like that. And one person has to be up on the trailer turning this big screw jack to get the hydraulic ram to catch. And I'm down on the ground at the hydraulic controls. And the kid that was with me he goes, don't turn around really fast, but you have to see what's behind you. And so I gradually turn around and look, and just about every employee on the ranch is over there in these it's like we're the drive-in movie theater screen. They're all over there looking. And I look over there, and even Michael was over there. They were watching this thing come down, you know, like it was just something they'd never seen before. And so that was one of my first experiences of seeing him out there when I was there working. So that was pretty exciting.
That is a great story. Everybody be loving that story. So what, did you meet him that day or another time?
No. As a matter of fact, he wasn't supposed to be there, because when I got to the front gate about 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and I rang the buzzer, because the ranch manager said, just come to the ranch and I'll have it arranged so you can stay in one of the guest units, because we don't have there's no guests on property, so you can just stay in one of the guest units. I said, okay. So I get to the ranch and I buzz the button, and the security guard answers, and he apparently didn't have any paperwork in front of him. And he believed my story, but he said, I'm going to have, so he called the ranch manager at home. And apparently it was one of those times when Michael showed up unexpectedly or last minute change of plans or whatever. So I couldn't stay. So he came back, the security guard came back on the speaker and said, well, you're supposed to go to a motel and just get a bill. We have some guests on property. He didn't say Michael was there, but he said we have some guests on property. So that was, so I didn't actually, I just came out there, did my work and left, but I did get to see, at least I, got to see Michael there.
Yeah. So what about so we all want to know now, when did you first meet him and what were your first impressions of him?
Well, the first time that I had been working there a couple of weeks, and I think it must have been summertime because it was a pretty warm day. And when VIP guests are there or Mr. Jackson's there, the guys that work in the amusement park, we wear a black vest and a white dress shirt and a tie and black pants. It's kind of a formal thing. And so we understood that they were coming to the park. So I went over to the snow cone. There's a vending machine close to the railroad tracks. And I went over there to make sure there was some ice in case they wanted snow cones because it was a hot day, because the ice melts pretty fast. So and the cement in front of the park and all through the park is, when it's wet, they put these stamps down and it makes it look like old antique brick laid down or flat rock. And I can hear, there's a golf cart, I can hear it from the tires hitting all these cracks in the stamped pavement. So I know there's a golf cart coming down the railroad tracks. And I just keep grinding the ice. And at this point in time, I've never met him, talked to him, introduced myself to him or anything. So I'm just trying to do my job. And I hear this voice, and I'm pretty sure it was him. He said, "Sure is hot today, isn't it?" I said, I turned and kind of looked over my shoulder and said, "Yeah, it sure is." I went back to grinding ice, and all of a sudden a water balloon hits me right in the middle of the back. And I hear him driving off, and I hear this laugh that I later became to know it was his laugh. And I heard him say, "It wasn't me." So that was my very first, and I remember going back to grinding ice, and I was thinking, this is going to be a fun place to work. I said, that's when your boss comes out and has a water balloon fight with you. I said, that's can't be bad. So
you're unarmed, you can't fight back.
I am, yeah.
Wow. So, but you didn't get to do much talking that day to him. Do you think that he introduced himself that way because that was like, did he do that with other people? Was it because he was shy?
I don't know. I'm
He's
not
just
sure.
funny, like pranks.
I guess I was a new guy and he was initiating me. I don't know.
Initiating you, yeah.
Good way to break the ice with a water balloon fight. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. He grows up surrounded by guys, working together. Everybody's working from the age of 6, 7 years old, and you prank, right? You initiate one another.
Well, and he loved, of course, I was only on the job for a couple of weeks, but over the course of the 15 years, I did learn that he does like water balloon fights. That was kind of a regular thing around there. So.
Wow, that's fantastic. And did your duties, when you started working there, did your duties extend past the remit of the rides? Did you do other things?
Well, I was mainly there to work in the amusement park and help with the maintenance. And I have a background in general, safety, whether it's employee safety or guest safety, because the company I worked for prior to that, we would write safety policies for amusement parks and fairs and carnivals and stuff. So I kind of just, anything safety related, we have our own fire department. I worked with those guys on, what do we have here for when we have these big, then I started learning about the events that we had. Up until then, I didn't really know anything about that. I started asking about what do we have in the way of first aid when we have events, and how do we staff things when we have events and whatnot. So I kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything, around the ranch, but mainly my focus was the amusement rides.
Mm-hmm. And the train, right? The train
Well, the park included the Waterford area. That was part of our responsibility, and the arcade, which was down behind the main house. That was part of our responsibility. And then when I went to work there, the only train we had was the small train, the CP Huntington, and it had about 2 miles of track, and that was all of that was our responsibility. And then later, when we got the steam train, that became the park's responsibility, obviously. So things grew and grew and grew, and we had to start having more events and bigger events, and I got more involved with, how the events ran and from a scheduling, because we weren't really staffed like a typical tourist attraction that you would go to, and there's people everywhere. You just go in and do whatever you want to do. We kind of had to. We only had like 4 people in the amusement park, but we had 18 rides, and so we had to kind of have a schedule. And Mr. Jackson wanted, I think he wanted people to experience everything at the ranch. So we kind of had to have a schedule of, okay, we're going to split the group into 2, and we're going to take these people and on the small train down to the zoo, and these people will go to the arcade, and then we'll swap trains, and they'll go to the opposite. And then they would we do a big Santa Maria style barbecue, and they'd have lunch. And usually after lunch, we take them into the movie theater. We used to show them full length movies, but it takes too long. And I mean, it's a beautiful movie theater, but the kids really want to get out there and ride the rides. So started.
It's hard to concentrate.
Once goes
on a movie.
Yeah. Well, theater, you got to experience the theater. It's a beautiful theater. I'm sure you've all seen pictures of it. Some of you have been lucky enough to go there, but so, and it's nice to after lunch let them relax a little bit before they go over to the amusement park. We all know how that goes. So we'd play some Michael videos, and then when Ghost came out, that's a good 40 minutes is a good time for them to sit in there, and at that time, I don't think you could see it anywhere else except for in the theater at Neverland. And I would always give them a little speech about, Michael plays 5 parts in it, and the first time you see him, you probably won't recognize him. I mean, the diehard fans and stuff will recognize him, but a lot of people, and I'd always tell them to watch at the end during the credits. You could see Michael getting made up as all these different characters, and it shows how they did some of the special effects. So that was a good little break after lunch, and then they spend the last part of their day at the amusement park, and then we give them a little souvenir bag and put them back on the bus and send them back to wherever, LA or wherever they came from. So.
Right. Wow.
So saying that, you observed. We always thought that Michael has busloads of children in. Once in a while, like Make-A-Wish and sick children and inner city kids. But this was quite the events. Like you had multiple events. I understand that it wasn't just once in a while with these busload of kids.
We had the winters up there, you get a lot of rain, so we didn't schedule as much stuff in the wintertime because Michael didn't want these kids to look forward to coming up there and at the last minute get canceled, because most of the kids we were dealing with were they were either from the hospital, and they were dealing with life-threatening diseases or inner city, and usually they had enough disappointment in their life to look forward to coming to Neverland and then get canceled. So in the wintertime we would not schedule as many because you could get rained out, but the summertime we tried to do at least 1 a week and sometimes 2 a week. So we stayed pretty.
Amazing. I think people have the impression that it was just once in a while, and so that's amazing to hear that it was more than.
Oh yeah, people don't have a clue of, how much we did there and how important it was. You just think, yeah, that's a nice thing, but the ranch would get letters after these groups, and the ranch manager would share these letters with us. And I actually made copies and I have a 3-ring binder that's just full of these letters. It's families that terminally ill kids, usually their best friends are their family because they're in the hospital a lot and they're just around their family and their siblings and whatnot. And so, and whenever we did a group of kids in the hospital, they could bring their siblings and parents and whatnot. So it was a family affair. some of these letters, I mean, it would rip your heart out. I mean, it's the biggest day of their life. I mean, it was a day that they could forget about, you know, all of their issues and just focus on having a good time. So it really meant a lot to the kid, and it meant a lot to the parents, because when that kid passes away at way too early of an age, it's a memory that family is going to hang on to for the rest of their life.
Wow. How does it make you feel when people are saying out there that Neverland was a trap for kids? You know, like, it rips our hearts out to hear that, but
it gets me. I probably won't comment too much on it, because I'm sure I would say something that would be out of line. It would be true, but it would be out of line. So, but yeah, it's tough, because I was there for 15 years, and I know that. I mean, I'm not going to go into detail, but I've had conversations with somebody there that was in charge of everything. And I know that he built that place to do that kind of stuff, to bring these kids in and these families in and change their life and give them, you know, something that they might not ever have a chance to experience. And it was, and if you sat down at a table like I had the pleasure of doing, and seeing in his eyes and hearing in his voice of how sincere he was about it, I mean, it would burn you up to hear people say that, because they don't have a clue. I mean, I heard it from his mouth of what, and I could see it in his eyes, and I mean, I just knew that this had nothing to do with him, and it was all about, you know, making these other people's lives, you know, happy, joyful.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's an important piece, you know, to know, people to know out there, that it wasn't just, you know, for him and to enjoy down behind the gates to be a kid. It was also for kids. It was to help the kids. Yeah. So, was there any kind of Halloween events there? Like, we're like, you know, the focus today for Halloween, we're like, you know, we want to shed some light on Neverland, like loving light. Was there some fun times with Halloween or some sort of special occasions that he?
Well, you know, we always did some decorations, but a lot of times Mr. Jackson was gone. He's either working in the studio or on tour or whatever. So, I mean, we always, whatever the season was, the ranch got decorated because even if he didn't come home, he would have guests there. And so it was always, Halloween we decorate for Halloween, and all the holidays, you know, whatever it was, we would theme the place accordingly. So.
Speaking of Halloween, Judy Brisset, as you know, Judy, we were talking to her, and she was saying there was this rec room that was rumored to be a little bit haunted, and all these staff there, they were a little bit thinking there was spirits going around in Neverland Ranch. Did you hear of any of those things?
You know, I heard those stories, and I was in the rec room a lot, because that was one of like I said, the amusement park's responsibility. And we actually had one video game in there that required an attendant. It was a big flight simulator. So I was in there a lot, and I would always go in there in the morning when we had the steam train. I'd fire up the steam train and just walk right down the hill and make sure the arcade was cleaned up, because I always got there way before housekeepers did. So I was in the arcade a lot, and I never had any experience.
Oh,
so.
Okay. So it was just a rumor. There was no spirits that you saw.
Well, I didn't see any. I don't know. You know, maybe they didn't want to mess with me. I don't know, but I didn't.
I reckon that was it. You know, I reckon that was it.
I would tell you that. I mean, I'm sure it's probably well known out there that Mr. Jackson did like scaring people.
Yeah.
And I can attest to that. And this was the actual event that happened in the story I'm about to tell you, I don't think he intentionally came up to scare me, but he absolutely scared the bejeebers out of me. And I could tell how much he was laughing afterwards, that he really enjoyed it. We just had the steam train, you know, maybe a couple of months. And there's a lot, this is a live steam train. So there's a lot that the person up at the engineer has to pay attention to the water level. And I mean, it's kind of intimidating. It's a big giant ticking time bomb. So it had a computer on it that monitored the water level and all this stuff. So it was as safe as we could make it. But I'm a little nervous up there, and at nighttime, I wish I had more pictures to show everybody what I'm talking about, but everybody's seen pictures of the steam train depot. Well, at nighttime, and the track is cut like about halfway up that mountain. The track is cut into the side of it, and as soon as you leave the depot at nighttime, it's like going back 200 years. I mean, you got all these giant, sycamore and oak trees, and just the light, the glow of the headlight shining forward. And a friend of mine actually went to the trouble of finding a light bulb that threw off the exact light that just looked like the old, kerosene. I mean, it was, and you'd see the steam popping out both sides and these big trees, and the lights of the house would disappear, and you hadn't seen the amusement park yet. It was like going back in time. Wow. So I have Mr. Jackson and 2 or 3, I want to say maybe Taj was one of them. It was some family members. And the train had 2 coaches, and each coach held 60 people. They're open sides. They're not enclosed. They just have like bench seats. And they're all the way at the very back. And of course, this train, everything around Mr. Jackson, you had to have a quality sound system. And this sound system was installed by Brad Sunberg. And I'm chugging along, paying attention to the water gauge and the temperature gauge and the air pressure gauge. And all of a sudden I see like this shadow, and it was not uncommon to see wild animals running around out there, because we're out in the middle of the boonies. And all of a sudden the shadow comes inside the cab with me. And I just about jumped out of the train moving because it scared me. I thought it was an animal attacking me, and it was Michael. And he knows he scared me, and I kind of gave him the old, I had to get my gloves on because everything up there is hot, and I'm kind of like pointed to him, and because in order to get from all the way back there to the front, there's not like a walkway you can walk on. He had to hang on the side of the train, like hang off, and I'm like, and I wasn't really thinking of that. I was thinking about the fact that I almost jumped out of the train, but he laughed so hard because he knew he scared the crap out of me. So that's when I knew that he really did like scaring people.
Oh my gosh. I can just imagine him hanging off the side of the engine because of all the cherry pickers on tour when he's on his concert and he's hanging over there.
Yeah.
He's frightened of that kind of thing.
But I mean, he could have got hit by a tree branch or something. I mean, it's just like, I said, you can't do that. I don't want to have to be the guy who goes back and says, well, I left here with Mr. Jackson, but he didn't come back with us. Yeah. Can
you imagine that? Oh my gosh.
But he, like I said, he definitely thought that was hilarious.
Oh my gosh. So no ghosts then? You never saw a ghost?
No, I never did.
No, you never did. Did you hear of other staff that saw ghosts?
Yeah, I did hear some rumors here and there, and I kind of just went in one ear and out the other. So.
All right, we won't push you. You're a tough guy. Okay, we wanted to ask you about, well, everyone's had jobs that they've stayed in a long time, and life changes all the time, and if you stay long enough, things change around you, and you remember the old days, and you know that sort of thing, and you've seen people come and go, and sometimes people talk about like golden eras of a job. Did Neverland, in the 15 years that you were there, did it have a golden era? And if so, could you share that with us?
Well, when I look back on it, it actually seems like it was, well, obviously it was too short, but I don't think there was any particular, it was like, people talk about, I've worked here for 15 years and it's like, oh, it's just another day at the office. Well, it was never just, it was never just another day at the office, Even if there was like a week in a row where all I did was go out and wash rides or change light bulbs, I still, I turn on the sound system and play whatever, different music than other than Disney or whatever. I'd play something I wanted to listen to. And it just amazed me every day I went to work. And of course, some of the days I got to interact with Mr. Jackson, those of course were very special. And the days I got, there were certain, there were some celebrities I was pretty excited about getting to meet. Like I said, I never was really starstruck, but it was kind of, to me, it was a big deal. But I think really the groups of kids that we did from the hospital, I got very close to a kid with cystic fibrosis and actually took care of him for a few years. So I know how much that means to those kids and how much it means to their families. Matter of fact, this kid with cystic fibrosis, the first time he came out there, he was kind of I can't remember how old he was the first time he came, probably 15 or 16. And he was, I don't know if anybody remembers Lollapalooza music concert. It was pretty hardcore headbanging kind of music, I guess. I'm sure I'll get some tweets telling me, no, that's not what it was. But anyway, he definitely was not a Michael Jackson fan. He didn't listen to Michael's music. But the event's over, and this is his first time there, and he's with a bunch of other kids with cystic fibrosis. And he's telling me, he says, he says, after being here all day, I hope I get this quote right. He said, and this might not be exact, but you'll get the meaning here. He said, I don't know if I like Michael Jackson, the entertainer, but I'm sure I'd like Michael Jackson, the person. And that,
that's a beautiful thing to say. I mean, that young guy recognized that, right? You don't have to be a fan of the music.
Because he saw how much it meant to everybody there, including him. What a big day it was, and he just thought that was so cool that this guy would, spend all this money building this place and and do this for people. So I enjoyed that. I think I actually got to share that with Mr. Jackson too.
Oh, that must have filled his heart for sure. That's the things we want to hear about. It's we already know how amazing of an entertainer and artist he was. We know everything like that. So we as researchers and people who study him and our fans, we understand all of those parts, but it's the other people that don't know this, So,
right, yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's really special. Thank you. Yeah, that's getting a lot of reaction from the chat, and trying to follow it by, but it's getting a lot of reaction.
Questions for you too after about from the chat from some of the fans as well. I still can't figure out how to take the volume off though, so don't mind me.
General, safety.
Oops, sorry. See, I don't know how to take it off.
Yeah.
So Jeanette can be in charge of looking at the chat later for questions.
Well, I hope they don't type as fast as I when I was on Taj's thing yesterday. I'm like, how can you read that stuff? It's going by. I mean, it's like there'll be 10 people putting messages all at the same time. And I'm like, I can't read that.
No, it's fast, yeah.
It just flies by. You mentioned in that last segment about getting to know Michael and having chats with him. What was your impression of him when you really got to know him? What sort of was he unique? Had you met that kind of guy before? Was he really more normal than people give him credit for?
Well, I tell people, like, depending on how judgmental you are, I guess there's some people out there that you're never going to change their mind, but I tell most people, if you have a negative opinion or no opinion of Mr. Jackson, I can tell you for a fact, if you spent 5 minutes with him, you would come away with a totally different view, because he is so easy. My conversations with him were pretty much always at Neverland. So he was home, he was relaxed, he wasn't working, he wasn't on a schedule. So maybe that had something to do with it. But he was about as down to earth, genuine, sincere person as I've ever met in my life. And I know that most people, even people that like his music and everything, because of everything in the tabloids and everything about him, they find that so hard to believe, but it's the truth. I mean, he's very easy to understand. He's very, very down to earth, very sincere, very compassionate. I mean, and I don't want anybody, I'm not telling anybody out there he was like my best friend or anything, but I tell people, I said, he treated me better than some of my friends do. And I said, I always knew that he was the boss and he always knew I worked for him, but he treated me very well, and we could sit and talk I remember one time you're talking about sitting down and talking with him. And this is probably one of my favorite memories of all the 15 years I was there. I don't think he or the guests were scheduled until the next day, but he came in a day early. And I thought, well, when he's there by himself, he's not really going to come down to the park and do anything. So I just went about my business doing whatever I do, you know, cleaning the rides or whatever. Anyway, at that time, I was actually in my office. Hopefully I wasn't playing solitaire on the computer or anything, but I was in my office and I could tell that somebody came in, and I just figured it was, you know, security doing their rounds or whatever. I turn around and it was Mr. Jackson. And he, now I don't know if he'd ever been in this, there was a ride there called the Sea Dragon. It looked like a big, kind of like seemed like a pirate ship type thing. Big boat that swung back and forth. There was a building.
They're my favorite.
Pardon?
They're my favorite rides.
Oh, there was a building behind it that housed all the hydraulic stuff that made it do what it did, move back and forth. And that they built it twice as big as it needed to be. And we had some storage back there and like a little break room. And I had like a little office back there. And anyway, all this hydraulic stuff, again, you really need a picture to appreciate the story, but it's the motors. I mean, it's bigger than a car motor, and the hydraulic tank is about the size, it would fill the entire back of a pickup truck, and hoses everywhere and all these little electronic solenoids. I mean, it was, to somebody who'd never seen it or had no idea what it was, it looked like a pretty complicated piece of equipment. And so anyway, I turned around and realized it was Mr. Jackson, and he's like staring at all this hydraulic stuff. He's standing right outside the door of the office and he's staring at all this hydraulic stuff. And he looked at me and, with this kind of puzzled look on his face. And he goes, what is all that stuff? So I take him over, and I actually, without getting real technical, I well, that's a hydraulic tank, and that's a pump, and these are valves, and I kind of explained briefly what everything does, and I opened the back doors, and you can see these big giant truck tires that go up and down hydraulically and turn, and that's what makes the boat go back and forth. And he was absolutely fascinated, and I could tell that he was listening to every word that I said. And I swear, I tell people this, I swear, if he was here and alive today and you walked in that room, he could tell you what everything did. I mean, he really was, he was very interested. And I guess you see that in a lot of the stories about him, that he has a thirst for knowledge. But I thought, how a hydraulic system on the Sea Dragon works, I didn't think that would be something that would interest him. But he really, truly was interested in it, and he wanted to know what it all did.
Yeah.
But where I was going with that was, we had the Jumbotron in the amusement park when it wasn't on tour. And I was told by somebody high up the ladder, the cartoon version of Peter Pan, that's all you play on there. Now at that time we didn't have DVDs, but we had Laserdisc and we had VHS and we had whatever the professional, the 3/4 inch stuff that the TV people used to use. And we had satellite, and we had hundreds of movies and this now. Like, well, if all I'm playing is Peter Pan, then why don't we just get like 4 or 5 copies of that? So when one wears out, so anyway, he goes, is there something we can watch besides Peter Pan? I'm thinking, all right. I memorized every single word to that movie, the animated version. So I take him back and I show him where all the laser discs are, and he's looking through and looking through and looking through. And this kind of cracks me up. He picks the movie Hook, which is really kind of the same story, but it's got live action. So he goes, can you put this on? And I said, yeah, sure. And I think he's, like I said, there's no guest there yet. So I think he's just going to, watch a minute of it and get on his golf cart and go back to the house. So we go out and we sit at this picnic table underneath this big giant tree, and we watch him and I watched the entire movie and talked the whole time. And I kept pinching myself going, is this really happening? Am I sitting here just talking to him about, and that's when I really got an idea about Neverland and how important it was to him, and everything he was doing for the kids in the hospital and the inner city kids. So that was one of my, most enjoyed moments out there. I shouldn't say moments, it was an hour and a half long, but we sat there and watched the entire movie, him and I, and just talked.
I guess every time you see that movie now, or not watch it, you
I
just
do.
remember.
I'll be scanning through the channels. I'll see it on there. I have to watch it for a few minutes just so I can have a flashback.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Just to explain to the non-technical people, is this a huge screen that is outside that, but they use it in concerts? Is that what this is?
Right. If you look, if you can, in your mind, I'm sure you're all capable of this, of closing your eyes and seeing the history tour, the Dangerous tour on stage live. And there's a big giant screen on this side and a big giant screen on this side. Those are both Jumbotrons.
Jumbotrons.
Mm-hmm.
They came to those two Jumbotrons came to the ranch, and you actually put them to set them up side by side and do a few changes on the computer that runs it, and it becomes one big giant Jumbotron. So we had that. That was actually sitting at the back side of the amusement park, and we would play, like I said, mostly we'd play Peter Pan on it. And I remember on my birthday, we had some guests there, and when they left, the house people had already made some dinner for me. So I thought, you know, it's my birthday. I was there by myself. I'm going to sit down here, and I put on the Pink Floyd video, one of their concerts. And I sat there and watched most of that and ate dinner. I thought, no, this is not a bad way to spend my birthday.
That's a really cool way.
Like a drive-in movie at the park.
Yeah, it was basically, I think it was, I won't get the measurements exact, but it was about, I want to say about 30 by 40 or 30 by 30, and had a massive, we had two big old giant, I forget the model number, but they were serving in Vegas. They had a nickname of Earthquake or Quake or something like that, because they were just they were like, I don't know, 20-inch subwoofers. They're monster subwoofers. And then we had four or six JBL towers for the mids and the highs. And it was, you know, I don't know what the amperage or the wattage was, but I could turn that thing up, and people 7-8 miles up the mountain would call and go, "Hey, what are you guys doing down there?" So it was definitely, it was like being at a concert.
Wow, yeah, because the light that must have emitted from those screens.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Especially in Neverland, because it's in the middle of the mountains. There's nothing else, just stars.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
So you lived in Los Olivos, right?
I lived in Santa Maria.
Oh, Santa Maria. Okay. And
yeah, when I made my deal to go to work there, I was actually on my way to. Oh no, that wasn't that time. I was on my way somewhere. I mean, I was on a kind of a tight schedule, and so I asked the ranch manager. I said, "Well, where do people live around here?" And he said, "Well, most everybody lives in Santa Maria." So I went there and just looked for an apartment and put a deposit down on one, and that's where it was about. I want to say about 30 miles away, but that's where most everybody lived, and it was a little bit more. Los Alamos, there's not really much to. You almost have to go to Santa Maria to buy groceries. Most of the stuff right there in the San Ynez Valley was pretty high rent. I mean, it was, you know, there were some small houses and stuff there, but there was a lot of. It was kind of a high rent area, so.
How did it feel to live there? Like, and what did people think that you work at Neverland Ranch, and the people in the community? What were their impression of Neverland Ranch and that sort of thing?
Actually, everybody around. Well, I mean, I kind of stayed low key, and the only people I really socialized with was other people that worked at the ranch. I didn't really. I mean, some of the guys. We had our own fire department, so I got to know a lot of people in the Santa Maria Fire Department. They were all. They actually came out there occasionally and would help us run rides and whatnot. But generally speaking, I think that everybody in that whole San Ynez Valley and Santa Maria and all around there, I think that they really liked having Michael live there. And it was for various reasons. I mean, that ranch had a huge financial impact on the whole entire area because, I mean, you know, when I went to work there, it was over 100 employees, and it was somewhere floating around 100 employees almost all the way until the end. So that was a big deal right there. And when you start lighting up all these big old giant sycamore and oak trees and having an amusement park and all these lights and everything, PG&E, the electric company, they liked us because our bill was probably as big as the whole town of Los Angeles, you know, and I mean, and you know, they just. I think everybody around there really appreciated Michael. And I mean, there's other celebrities that live around there, and one of the reasons they live there is because the people around there don't really care one way or another about celebrity. They don't bug them, and they don't bow down to them, and they just treat them like normal neighbors, and which is what those people want. So
yeah, to be away and from the crazy city life and quiet and have some privacy. Yeah.
Can we do some questions from the live stream?
Sure thing. Mm-hmm.
We do some. We've got some here. Firstly, Shirley would like to know how old were you when you started working there? And I think she missed that. Can you repeat what date you started working there as well?
Well, you know, and I've had a couple of people ask me, the fans ask me about certain things about that documentary was out about dates and stuff, but I am really, really bad with dates. I know that I started working there as a consultant as soon as they started purchasing rides. And I did that for 2 years, and then I went to work for them full time. So, I mean, I can't tell you exactly what year it was, but
around the very early 90s, I guess.
Yeah.
If you did 15 years, then that kind of makes sense. And I got some more. We got some serious negative topic questions, so let's just bear with us. And I think people think these things are important. So Annalise was asking about, were you there when the police raids happened?
I was. Actually, the first one, let's see, the first, you know, there was 2 different raids.
Yeah.
The big one, I was not there. And I wasn't there. The second one, I was there, and we actually snuck Michael out through the back of the property.
Oh, which, the 93 or 2003?
I think it was when they wanted to come and get DNA or whatever, and Mesero actually flew up there. I think they flew him up there in a helicopter.
2003, yeah.
Because he was, you know, he was like, you know, all he had to do is come ask, and he'd bring Michael down to wherever they wanted to bring him down to let him do that. To come in and do another raid was just, you know, that was out of control.
That's pretty terrible.
Oh, yeah, totally unnecessary.
Wow. And what impact did that have on the staff and the morale of all the people who work there, you know?
Well, I think, well, everybody that I talked to about it was pretty disgusted with how it was, you know, how it was done. And I mean, I can't think of, you know, the FBI's #1 most wanted criminal couldn't have got treatment like that. I mean, it was like, it was just, we all just were amazed that they went to that extent to do that. But
yeah, they don't even do that to serial killers, but they did it. Yeah.
Another question we have from Shirley is, did you ever meet Wade or James?
I did.
Did you hear me?
I did, yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I did meet him, and I don't want to get far into that because I know the 3 main characters in that documentary, one being Mr. Jackson, the other one being Jimmy and Wade. I know all of them very well since they were little kids until, you know, whenever. And I have my own opinion, and I'm pretty amazed that it went where it went with all that. And
yeah, and it's going through the court system. And you know what? There's people that are being interviewed that work there right now, like some housekeepers and things, and they're all just saying, you know what? He was a great man, and they never saw anything, and it's, you know, it's in his favor. So it's court system can deal with that, right?
Yeah, thank you for answering those questions.
Thank you. I know it's hard to do. I know.
Yeah, we understand, and thank you. All right, let's ask a positive, nice one now.
Yeah. We talk about give them airtime, really, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Did you ever go to an MJ concert? Now we know the answers to this, but we'll let you tell new viewers and listeners all about that.
I did actually. I've been to 2 of them. Well, technically, I've been to 3 of them, but yeah. I have a lot of friends that kind of, you know, they're kind of Michael Jackson fans, and I got the opportunity to take a few people to go see him in Hawaii.
Nice.
And
you were like the best friend to people. I mean, I thought.
right. And I got to tell you, it was a blast because, well, it is kind of a funny story, man. So we get there several days early because two of the people that I took, his parents actually lived there. His dad was retired Navy 40 years or whatever in the Navy. And they've lived there ever since. So they wanted to spend some time with his parents. And so we kind of got there a few days early. And so the day of, actually they did 2 shows there. And we were going to go to the second show. So the day of the first show, I kind of wanted to go out because because of the Jumbotron, I got to know a lot of the guys on the road crew, Benny Collins, the production manager. And so I kind of just wanted to go out and see, and I'm into, because of, I guess, with the mechanical stuff of amusement rides, the tour thing was interesting, the stage and all that. So I kind of wanted to go out there and see it. And I was told I had to go to get my tickets to go to the concert. I had to go to the hotel where Mr. Jackson was. I had to meet a certain person and tickets because they were like, they were about the size of a credit card. They had a hologram on them. They were hard plastic. And they didn't want them counterfeited or out there before they needed to be out there. So I go there and the guy was real nice. He goes, well, you're not on the list. So I called somebody back in the States and said, hey, and this person is one of those people that is like, when she gets off the phone with somebody and they say it's handled, it better be handled. So she's like, what? No tickets? I go, she's freaking out. And I said, well, I said, I'm not in a panic mode because I'm not going until tomorrow. And she goes, oh, that's why you don't have any tickets. They don't issue anything until the day of the concert. So if you want tickets, you got to go back tomorrow and get them. You can't get tomorrow's tickets today. I said, okay. So I thought, well, I'm going to take a shot at going out there anyway. And I called Benny and he said, yeah, come on. And I'll tell you where. So anyway, I went out and he gave me a tour of the stage. It was kind of cool. I was standing right there where Michael and looking at this big giant it's Aloha Stadium in Honolulu, and got to say hello to everybody. I got a really cool, he did me an all access pass with a road thing on the back. It was pretty nice. And now the next day we go out there and I found out that the tickets I got were actually on the deck, on the sound stage or on the soundboard deck, there's only about 50 seats there and it was all VIP, family members and stuff. So I was really excited. I mean, I would have taken nosebleed seats. I mean, we were just going to kind of all hang out together and see one of his shows. So, but I was kind of blown away when I got to sit on the, I can't remember if Catherine was there or not, but I know there were some family members there. And, but anyway, all those people that sit on that VIP thing, they're all staying at the same hotel as Mr. Jackson, and they're all coming there on the, in these limo buses or whatever. And we're driving ourselves down there. So we get there like an hour early just because we want to get there an hour early. And because I had the all access thing, they let us in. And so we were walking around. We bought our t-shirts and souvenirs and everything before anybody was there. And of course, when the show started, these are great seats. I know that you guys all want to be down front, but it was kind of nice being back about 20 or 30 rows and raised up about 4 feet off the rest of the floor. So that was very nice. And I had some other friends that went there. Actually, it's a friend of mine who owns a carnival, and his wife went there. And I don't know where they were sitting. I don't remember if I got them. I think I got them tickets. But anyway, so he calls me after the show, and only because he'd been at Neverland, we rented rides from him in the wintertime. Michael wanted extra rides, and he got to know a little bit about the Jumbotron. And the Jumbotron is made up of these squares. They're like 1 foot by 1 foot, and they have 2 computer lines going in and an AC line going in. And every once in a while, something will happen to one of them and they quit working. And he called me and says, I want you to know, and I want you to share this with the Jumbotron guys, because I know that they'll appreciate that somebody in the audience noticed that one of those squares went out And then when Mr. Jackson did a slow song or was talking or whatever, and the Jumbotrons weren't on, and this only happens, I'm going to say, well, now the screens are different, but back in those days, this would only happen on a Michael Jackson concert. A guy, because it takes two people, one guy has to be outside, and normally we use like a big heavy piece of equipment to go up in front, and then a guy in back has to undo all the wires and 4 bolts, and then the guy out front takes that one out and puts a new one in. And anyway, so a guy, obviously you can't take a big piece of equipment when you're in the middle of a concert. He rappels down on a rope, rappels down to where the bad one is, and he's holding on to another one. They weigh about 50 pounds. And he does all this and puts it back. Anyway, this friend of mine, Dave, he noticed that. And he goes, I want you to make sure and tell those guys, I noticed that they changed that bad unit out in the middle of that performance. And he goes, I think that's pretty cool. So I shared that with the Jumbotron guys. And
Wow.
I remember when I saw Mr. Jackson the next time, I told him that I was at the concert, and I said I had no, and I'm sure that everybody out there's probably been to a concert or watched enough of them to know that he works it, man. He is like, that's like playing racquetball for 2 hours, going up and down that stage. I know he's got some slow songs and he gets some breathers here and there, but I told him, I said, I had no idea that you work so hard to keep us all employed. And he thought that was funny.
Oh, he's a hard worker, no kidding.
That's tough work going. That stage, especially when I was actually up there the day before and saw how, I mean, that's a huge stage. When you're sitting out in the audience, it doesn't look as big as when you're standing in the middle of it looking out. It's like he works every single inch of that stage, and a lot of times he's dancing and moving fast. I go, that is hard work.
Yeah.
Pours
Yeah.
everything into it too, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really cool, the attention to detail and fixing the Jumbotron mid-concert. Yeah, that's a classic Michael, hey?
So how was it like with, you were there till 2005, correct? Is that where?
Yeah, it was, yeah, but I think that was it, yeah.
Yeah, so when he wasn't having these concerts, he had a bit of a break for a while and he's being a dad. How was Neverland then? Was it busy? Did he still have a lot of action going on with the kids?
Oh yeah. We stayed busy. You know, like I said, unless it was wintertime, we had rain going. I mean, he wanted that place to hop all the time. He never slowed. I mean, as bad as things got for him personally, it never slowed down for what we were doing for the kids in the hospital.
Yeah. Really? Wow. Okay. So it was like the hospital, they're still going there as much as they were before, even since 2000, 2005 or whatever. Okay. After his last tour.
I'd say probably the last year. I mean, it slowed down because I don't know who was making all the decisions back then. It probably wasn't somebody that had Michael's best interest in mind, but I think they were trying to convince him to shut the place down. So we started scaling back a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that just shows that's incredible that he's going through this stuff and but he's still having these events for the kids, the hospital, sick kids and things. Wow. That's incredible. I just sort of assumed it slowed down. I don't know, when he had his own kids, I thought it just did, but.
No, and it wasn't a free for all for them. You think that they're spoiled little brats because they get to go to the music park anytime. I would say he was a very responsible parent as far as, there was school time and there was family time and there was this time and there was that time. And then there was, 30 minutes in the amusement park. And that was about it. They would come down every day for a few minutes, but it wasn't a free for all for them. They had a schedule.
Wow. Amazing. So did you get to hang out with him sometimes? Like I know you said you had that you watched the Hook movie with him. Did you have any other kind of times where you got to hang out with him a bit, or you were part of like that?
Nothing close to that. I mean, that was quite a unique experience there. There was times, there's a trade show, it's IAAPA, it's all about amusement parks, and it's a huge, it's one of the biggest trade shows in the country. And somehow he would know, I try to go do it every year if I could. And it's in Orlando. And somehow he would know that I went there, and as soon as I come back, he would call me up to his office and want to see all the brochures and videos and stuff I had. And he'd be looking, I want one of these, I want one of these. I mean, so we had moments like that every once in a while, and occasionally, like, well, there's one that comes to mind that was it was one of those times when he got there like the day before the guests were expected to arrive, and I think we're sitting at the same picnic table we were going to watch Hooked underneath the big oak tree, and there's across the street from the park. Well, directly across the street was the movie theater and dance studio, and then there was a kind of a dirt field across the street all the way down to the zoo. And he goes, I think this was on I want to say it was on a Friday, maybe. There was a reason I remembered what day of the week it was, and when I tell the story about it, I think it was on a Friday. He looks at this big dirt thing over there across the street, and he goes, I want to put a basketball court in there. And sometime when I mean, this, like, I really didn't have anything to do with the amusement park, but sometimes, and it wasn't just me, but I mean, there would be somebody that he felt like I can talk to that person and tell them what I want, and they'll go to the ranch manager and tell them what I want, and hopefully it'll get done. So he's telling me I want this basketball court. Okay. He goes, and he goes, I want bleachers, like, so if a lot of people are here, they can sit in the bleachers and watch it. Okay. He goes, I want a scoreboard like a real, lights up and the horn, the horn honks. Okay. And then he said something else. I'm thinking, I'm gonna have to get a notepad here because I'm not gonna remember all this stuff. If he just would have said a basketball court, I was okay with that. We started getting detailed on which, no kidding, Michael getting detailed on what he wants. But so anyway, and there was lights. He wanted lights, so at night in the summertime the weather's really nice. They can play at night if they want because they have lights. And what else was there? Of course, we have to have some music over there, sound system, and I think the Neverland logo painted on it. Anyway, I remembered everything. I wrote it all down as soon as he left. And I called the ranch manager. It was after hours, so the ranch manager wasn't there. And I called him at home and said, so I got a list here. We got to do this. Okay, well, and this was when we were supposed to get, bids on things and get it approved and all that. I go, I don't think we have time for that. Oh, I left out the important part. So when he's all done telling me everything he wants, he goes, this is why I had to tell you it was on a Friday. He goes, can you have it done by Wednesday? I'm like, I don't know. I'll have to do some research here. I don't think there's any place in Santa Maria I can buy those big giant light poles and bleachers and all that. But anyway, so I called the ranch manager and I explained all this. He said, well, call around on Monday and get some, concrete company. I said, we don't have time for that. So we have to have some of the ranch guys come in and they can at least do the foundation. And I said, I've already talked, one of our firefighters, his brother had a concrete company. And I said, our guys can have this thing ready for concrete by Monday morning. And they'll be here Monday morning. And so I'm glad to say that you could play basketball on Wednesday. Now, the light towers were in, but they were laid on the ground. The bleachers were in an assembly. Everything wasn't done, but it was done enough where you could play basketball.
And who did he have come to play?
I don't remember. I do know. The one thing I do remember is we were having an event, I don't know, a week or two later, and a celebrity who my middle son absolutely loves, Chris Tucker, was there.
Yeah.
And my son was there helping, and he got to play basketball with him. That was with Chris Tucker. Was a big moment. So.
Wow.
I'm not even sure if anybody showed up Wednesday. I think they showed up Thursday. It was probably some family from close by. He had some family that lived close by. So.
Wow, that's amazing.
You could play basketball on Wednesday. So.
You've seen a lot of things happen there. Like were you there for Elizabeth Taylor's wedding and all of these other big events?
I was there, and that was a big event. I mean, that was a private event, but it was still big. I think the biggest thing we ever did there was that, I can't remember the 3 charities. I know it was an artist that had done some work for him, had a charity where the money went to school art, art classes. Make-A-Wish was one of them. And there's another one that I think Carlos Santana was involved in that was obviously the money went to school music projects. And we had about, I want to say a couple thousand people, which is a big, I mean, usually our groups of kids like from the hospital or Ranch City, we try to keep it around between 100 and 200 because it just works out where we can, split them up and do everything with a schedule. This event was, and it was huge. I mean, there was a company came in and put up all these big giant tents, and there was, oh my God, it was amazing. That was the night. I don't know, there's a picture. I saw a picture on the internet of Michael covered with cake. That happened at this event.
His birthday.
Yeah, well, it was a few weeks before. It was either a few weeks before or a few weeks after his birthday, but somebody decided to sing happy birthday to him. Well, he came down to this big giant tent that was basically a disco. There was nothing in it. In the middle, there was a round stage about 20 foot around, and the DJ was on that. And the rest of it was they put down a hard floor. It was like a disco, a dance thing. And they were going to do the $1 million check presentation to Make-A-Wish or whoever. And so Mr. Jackson came down for that. And somebody from, I think it was security or fire department, was gathering up all the employees because there were so many people in this tent and there was no way to get Michael out of there safely. Mm-hmm. So we had like 20 or 30 employees locked elbows over here, and then a few feet away we had 20 or 30 employees lock elbows over here to make a walkway out the back of the tent. Mm-hmm. And I was one of them. I was towards the end on this side. It would be Michael's left as he's walking down, and this is when Dieter worked for him. And I don't know what happened up on stage because I can't see it. I can hear everybody saying happy birthday, and there's a bunch of screaming and whatnot. And so now here comes Dieter and Michael, and I don't know. I think Dieter picked me because I was probably the biggest person in line, but he grabbed me. He had Michael's right shoulder like in his chest and had a hold of his shirt and probably his arm and was walking him out. And he looked at me and he grabbed me and he says, "Get on his other shoulder." So I grabbed his back of his shirt and that. We get out back. Now, out back, it was pitch black. I'm like, whose idea was this to take him out? The car was on the opposite side, the opposite corner. And I'm like, whose idea was this to take him out back here? And I know the railroad tracks are back there for the small train, but I'm thinking, does anybody else know? Are we all going to trip and fall and break somebody's leg or whatever? And so anyway, we get him out. We get him in the car. Everything's groovy. Now I go back in this tent and there's all these black lights are on. And I look down at my shirt and all I can see is a real dark spot. And immediately I think it's blood. I think somebody got hurt. I'm wondering if it's Michael. And I'm trying to figure out if I need to go back to the house and find Dieter and find out Michael's okay. And I walk out into the light and I look down and I go, it's brown. I take a finger, it's chocolate cake. It was chocolate cake. Michael I couldn't see it until I actually saw the picture online. Because it was dark, I just grabbed him and we started going. And then when I saw the picture online, it's like, but it was chocolate cake because he was covered in cake. So.
They had the food fight for his birthday celebration, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Rita's saying that was it the 45th? His 45th birthday.
Yeah, that was with Aaron Carter and things like that. Was there?
Yeah, I can tell you an Aaron Carter story.
Okay.
Well, it's the same situation. Dieter grabs me, and of course there's already some fans back there, that are trying to scratch my eyes out to get to Michael, and I'm just moving along, and then there's this small person with a bandana over their head, and they're going, and they keep grabbing me, and I'm like, now we're kind of getting away from everybody but a few people. And I think if this person grabs me one more time, I'm going to pile drive them into the railroad tracks. It turned out Michael turned around, I don't know because I let go of him or what, but he turned around and he goes, no, he's with us. And it was Aaron Carter. And I was just about to just plant him into the ground, but luckily Michael saved him.
Oh, the memories you must have. I can't even imagine. 15 years of just, wow. I just had to take a moment to imagine all of this and, Neverland.
I made a couple notes. I'm trying to make sure I talked about whatever.
Yes, please do.
Halloween, I don't like going into it scripted because I like people to just ask me questions and play it as it comes. But I figured since it was Halloween, I had to make sure and touch on, and I talked about him scaring me on the train.
Yeah.
And, the ghost video. So we had what's known as a wrap party when the project is done. And of course, at that time, nobody knew what ghost was. And actually, they weren't even calling it ghost then. It was, is it scary?
Mm-hmm.
Stan Winston and all the people that were in the video came to the ranch for a wrap party. And so I got a little bit of an explanation, of course, not seeing it, their explanation didn't do a whole lot for me, but I got to spend time with Stan Winston, and I tell you, I mean, he's passed away since, but man, that guy, Michael needed some more people like that in his life. He treated Michael like a little brother. I mean, he just was like, they would just laugh and talk and everything together. I mean, it was really cool interaction between them. And during this wrap party, there's a couple of funny stories during the wrap party. Of course, we had to have a water balloon fight. That was mandatory.
Of course.
And I don't know if, I mean, there's pictures online. If you've ever seen the water fort, it looks kind of like an old miniature version of a old West cavalry. There's a red fort and a blue. Well, they're both painted two-tone brown, but this one has blue highlights and this one has red highlights. And up close, you can't really tell from the picture, but there's sprinklers zigzagged across all along the walls. And then there's also water balloon launchers. There's a couple water balloon launchers on each side. And the four towers, there's actually these water cannons. So you get as many people as you can on hopefully an equal number of people on each side. And where else but Neverland can you go and have a water balloon fight where all the water balloons are already made for you, thanks to the guys that work in the amusement park. And so they split up into two teams, and they have a water balloon fight, and it's I'm always the lucky one that gets to pick the winner, and everybody gets soaked. There's a button on the red side. There's a blue button on the red side, a blue and a red button, and same on the other side. And if you try to make it across these suspended bridges and hit that button, and it turns on all these sprinklers and soaks everybody over there on that side, then somebody from that side has to run over and hit that same button on the other side to shut them off. And so everybody gets soaked. You can't tell who the winners are. All the balloons are gone. Everybody's dripping wet. But Michael always goes, "Big Al, who won?" I always act like I'm thinking about it, and I go, and he's usually out of the red side. The red team won. So the blue team, we have a dunk tank there. You can't see it from the picture, but there's a dunk tank down there. And the losing team has to take turns sitting on the dunk tank while the red team, or the winning team, throws baseballs and dunks them in the dunk tank. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't think Stan Winston was on the losing team, of course, because he was not on Michael's team. And I go, I don't think he's gonna get up on the dunk tank. And he was the first one up there. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. But he's just like Michael. He's just a big kid. He was just having too much fun that day. So.
Stan knew him from The Wiz, right? Wasn't Stan involved with The Wiz?
Yeah. Stan, if you do some study on Stan Winston Studios, and I'm sure they're still around. At the time, they were. Of course, now there's so much is done with computer graphics, but he was without a doubt the number one what they would call gore special effects. I mean, he did the original Jurassic Park. I mean, he did
Okay. Yeah.
dinosaur, Alien, Congo, Terminator. I mean, it's, you go on his website and see the movies he did are just, and I love it. I actually got to take one of the kids from the hospital to his, in that business, that kind of stuff is very top secret and people from the outside don't get to come in. But because of my connection with Mr. Jackson and Neverland, I was allowed to take a kid from the hospital down there to tour his place. And when you walk in, his conference room is about 30 foot by 30 foot. And it's all black carpet. And there's all these life-size creatures from all these movies he did it's a two level display area around this conference table. It's just like, it's pretty intimidating. You walk in there and see a full-size Terminator and a full-size, ape from Congo and whatnot. But the that they turn out there was just amazing, and just a super, super nice guy.
Wow. And you took kids from the hospital there. How did that happen? Like, how did you get involved with that?
I don't remember what led up to that, but it was this kid was kind of a Michael Jackson fan, and I think he came to the ranch with one of the hospital groups, and was really fascinated by the video, and so I told him a little bit more about this and that, and then the story I just told you about the rap party and whatnot, and all the different movies that Stan Winston had done, and I don't remember if he asked me if I could take him there or if he just said, I'm sure he just said it would be cool to see how they do all that stuff. And so, actually, I was really, really blown away when I first got there. They were working on, and you've probably seen this movie, Small Soldiers. It was probably back before you were born. But anyway, it had these little, they were like the size of a typical G.I. Joe doll. But I mean, it was scary because you look at their face and they would make facial gestures, their eye, their mouth. I mean, like it was like you would think it was a human dressed up, but it's like, this big. And they were working on that. And of course, like I said, all that stuff's very top secret because all those all those production studios are always trying to outdo each other. Anyway, the person at the front said, well, you can't go, we have to skip this part of the tour right now because they're working on a project that nobody can see. And I don't know why, but he just called back there and he actually talked to Stan Winston, and I heard him say on the phone, this is where my name is, I don't know if I told people my name wasn't Big Al, I don't know if they knew who I was, but that's Big Al, yeah, he can come in here. So of course I don't know anything about the movies and what's going on and what's not going on, but I thought that was pretty cool that he let us go in this restricted area and took time to show us, how they make this thing move. And the kid was absolutely fascinated by it. So.
Yeah, you got a memorable name, Big Al.
Well, you seem really easygoing, like I don't know, like was Michael drawn to like you because you seem really genuine and easygoing?
Well, he made a statement one time, not to me, but the person that repeated it to me would absolutely not have made this up. I'm not going to go into this story, but I was temporarily gone from Neverland for a short period of time. And the circumstances around it were kind of so secretive that we kind of thought that, Mr. Jackson had something to do with it, and which kind of hurt my feelings. But I said, well, I really don't know what happened. Anyway, I had the opportunity to go back out there. They wanted to buy a new ride, and they called me about where to get this. And I said, well, I said, it'll take you a year to get that. And it comes from Germany. Well, could you find us a good used one? I said, well, people that have that particular ride, they don't sell them because they're built like a Sherman tank. And anyway, so I found one of these that was for sale. I made a deal on it. I went up there, got it, put it in some trucks, 3 semi trucks, and shipped it to the ranch. And then they hired me to come out there and put it up. Well, I was out there putting this ride together, and Mr. Jackson was home, and he was driving down the golf cart with this other person and waved to me. And I went back to work. Everybody went back to work. And I don't know, about an hour later, the person that was driving the golf cart came back and said, hey, earlier when I drove by with Michael? And so, yeah. now I'm thinking I got to come out there and work at night with a flashlight because Michael doesn't want to see me or something. And he goes, no, he said, isn't that Big Al, the guy that works in the amusement park? And the guy said, yeah. He goes, well, I haven't seen him here in a while. Where's he been? He goes, well, he doesn't work here anymore. He said, why not? And he goes, well, actually, nobody really knew. We kind of thought that you had him fired. He goes, oh no. He called me the big jolly guy. He goes, I like that guy. He's always in a good mood. So I figured that must be what it is. I always try to remain positive about everything. And every time I see him, my quote is, he always asks, Big Al, how you doing? And I always said, just another day in paradise. And he always laughed. He always thought that was cool. And so.
That's so nice that you brought that morale to the Neverland,
Yeah.
But that's interesting to see, though, that, he sometimes didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. I was very happy. I got a phone call. I don't know. It's probably, I was all happy, but I still was, I kind of went back to independent consulting, but I really, after being at Neverland I can't remember when that happened. It was early on, like after maybe a couple of years, but I really wanted to go back to work at Neverland. And but I was glad at least I knew Michael did everything to do with it. Well, then about 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from Bill Bray, and I'm sure that's a name that everybody remembers. And he was around Michael forever, ever since the Jackson 5 days. And I'd never met Bill, but he definitely commanded respect. There were so many stories about him that, he called. I was at my apartment when he called, and I almost felt like I needed to stand at attention when Bill Bray. I'm like, what's he called? He said, I remember saying, well, he says, why'd you leave Neverland? I said, well, they handed me a piece of paper and a stack of envelopes and asked for my keys and escorted me to the front gate. I said, I really didn't have much of a choice. So, and he goes, would you like to come back? And I go, yeah. He goes, okay. And he's like, he's going to hang up. And I go, wait. I said, it sounds to me like you're the guy in charge now. I said, why don't you and I meet and we'll start over with what I think, my job is and what I envision, this and that and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, okay. So he said, I'll fly up to the ranch and whatever, it was 2 days or whatever. The next day, I can't remember. Anyway, so we met and I remember talking to him and I could see I had a PCN, a personnel change notification, and it had everything filled out except for the start date and the salary. And so we talked and talked. And then finally I guess, his alarm went off and he said, well, what's it going to take and when can you start? So I told him and he wrote it down and shook my hand and left. I said, okay. So at least I was, I was glad that Michael didn't have me fired, and I was glad that I got my job back.
It must have been a relief, to hear that, he was the other powers he's not aware of.
I got to say, I owe a lot of thanks to all of Mr. Jackson's I don't want to say fans, but all the private, what we call private guests. We have groups and we have private guests. The private guests, various people some people just, you don't know what they do. They just met them on the street. Some people are in the entertainment business. Some people are friends with them, whatever. But I tried to always make sure that and I think this is what Mr. Jackson wanted. He wanted them to go there and get like a 5-star resort experience, which, the house staff had a lot to do with that and the chefs had a lot to do with that. But when somebody comes there for the first time and one of us from the park takes them around on the train, there's kind of a theatrical thing. You got to kind of, and I think I must have had a lot of good positive results because I know Mr. Jackson would call people wherever he was at in the world, whatever he was doing. If he had guests show up there, he would call, either that day or the next day. How'd everything go when you got there? Blah, blah, blah. And he would ask them about their experience. So I think I must have got a bunch of positive remarks because he kept me around for a long time. So
sure did. Yeah.
Thank goodness for you.
Yeah.
like Taj was saying that in his broadcast, that, you know, there was some people that were surrounding him that were really good, you know, for him, that were, he felt comfortable with, and he's really thankful for people like you. And he mentioned some others that he felt were good, you know, looking out for his best interest. And so that's so amazing that you were part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, amazing.
Oh, should we take some questions?
He was an easy guy. He was an easy guy to want to do. I mean, I never saw him really get mad, but you could tell when he was disappointed about something, and he'd be the person that was the result of that. And I think everybody out there really wanted to do a good job for him, and he just was. He was an easy guy to want to do a good job for him.
Yeah. So what, like, could you describe it like Neverland? Like, what, I know that there's parks and whatever, but and it's beautiful, but like the whole ambiance and the feeling there, and with Michael, like what did it, I don't know, did he feel like people just talk about that a lot, how he was just so easy to be around.
Yeah.
Had this, like, you know, energy.
Working there, you didn't quite experience the same thing as the guests that come there, but I picked up on it a lot of times. I remember one time we did it was for one of the, I can't remember if it was for Dangerous or History, but we had some people from the production, kind of like Sony, the record, you know, people that are way down there in the chain of command, that they're always on the phone, computer, you know, helping get things done. And he threw a party for them, and they were all adults. And I remember there was this group of 3 or 4 ladies that were just, I mean, they were having the best time of their life, and they were acting like little kids, and they kept apologizing to me and I'm like, that just proves that we're doing our job here. You're supposed to come in here and forget about everything and just have fun. And you ladies are doing that. So that's a good thing. So I think that had that effect on, I mean, I can sit there and show you pictures and I can talk about it. And unless you had, it was different when you went there, you just, you know, it just blew your mind to be there. And it was easy to forget about everything else and not ever want to leave.
Oh, it's amazing. So were you around when like, well, he was married, you know, Lisa Marie and her kids, were you around then too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Aw, that's nice. They were on rides and stuff. I remember seeing pictures about them being on rides or something together. And sometimes we like, you know, the romantics and us, we go like, oh, we hope that he was happy on the Ferris wheel and
train rides and Ferris wheel rides, and yeah.
Aw, so nice. So we have a little bit of questions, I think, still.
Yeah, we got a question about what were the rules? So I guess these are kind of code of conduct sort of ideas. What were the rules for employees at Neverland? And if you broke the rules, would you get in trouble? I'm sure he had a no swearing rule, but what else?
Well, you know, we really didn't have, I mean, there was really no set rules like that. I mean, you just kind of knew that, I'm going to change the picture.
Everybody's talking about your ghost picture. Everybody's saying, how did you get it? So now you...
I was just off the internet. I downloaded it onto Zoom, but anyway, the rules, I mean, we had a confidentiality agreement, you know, 6-page full of all this lawyer talk, but there was really, I mean, I think everybody that went to work there just kind of knew that, you know, you're working for Michael Jackson, you have certain expectations. And I mean, a lot of the employees that work there really didn't have daily one-on-one with the guests or with Mr. Jackson. I mean, obviously, if you worked in the house, you know, as a housekeeper or a chef, or worked in the park, you're going to interact with the guests and Mr. Jackson quite often. And I mean, and he would go around and talk to the guys working in the arts and stuff and thank them, because, you know, you've seen pictures, you know, that we kept the local, you know, probably a couple of local nurseries in business with all the flowers we had. And that was hard work, and Michael appreciated it. And he would tell the guy, it wasn't on him to stop and thank people and talk to them about that. He actually threw a big party for all the employees every once a year for all, so they could bring all their families. So, but yeah, there was no. I remember the first actual memo I got, it listed all the holidays, and this will tell you a little bit about Mr. Jackson. So it lists all the holidays, you know, and I think there was like 11 or 12 holidays, but I'm reading them, and I get to the bottom, it says the most important day of the year, your birthday. I go, that's pretty cool. You get your birthday off as a paid holiday. So.
Ah, that's so
but
cute.
as far as set rules and everything, I mean, it was really, you know, really pretty much common sense.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know, that he had Family Day, which was just for all the employees and their families, right? So he'd open up the ranch to have barbecues and enjoy the park.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. How many do you think were there? Was it hundreds or?
Yeah, I would say easily, because we would usually invite MJJ Productions up too, which didn't have there wasn't a lot of people there, but sometimes, you know, I think we invited the people from Rocket Cargo one time there. They always did all the logistics for Michael's tours, and you know, there's a few other people, but yeah, I would say at least 200 or 300 people.
Wow.
And that was one of the events where we couldn't really do it like a normal event, where we split it up because it was just such a big group. So, and the only department that was really heavily affected by that was the amusement park, because we had so many rides and only between the two trains, and because you needed somebody on both trains all the time, and you needed somebody at every ride all the time. So I needed, like, you know, 20 or 25 people. So that's when I relied on some of the friends I had in Santa Maria that were on the fire department. They would come out and help me run rides. And I had some people from Knott's Berry Farm come up and help. And then in return for that, during one of our other events down the road somewhere, I would let them bring their family out and enjoy one of the events. So it was kind of a, you know, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your kind of thing.
Wasn't very hard getting people to help you out then? To volunteer and help? That wasn't hard? No. Yeah, a lot of volunteers in our group for sure, if we could have been there to help.
Actually, the friends of mine that I was telling you earlier that went over to Hawaii with me, they actually, I think there was 3 or 4 of them, they flew down from Las Vegas, and they stayed the whole weekend, and that was I think that was for Miko's wedding, actually. Yeah, because we ran really late that night, because Les is really, he's like 6'4", and I took him after the event was kind of over. I took him on a steam train ride up to the theater, and we're walking across that suspended bridge, and there's a big tree limb there that if you're 6 foot tall, you don't notice it. But Lester, it was dark out, and Lester banged right into that. He goes, "That's my pay for coming out here and working all day. I get knocked in the head." But yeah, I had a good group of people that were willing to come out and help.
Yeah, they're on call. Mm-hmm. I would have been on call. I would have been a regular, no problem.
Sometimes they would, when I would say, you know, I can bring you, I can't just invite people out to the ranch and show them the ranch, because that's not right. I said, but if you're interested in coming out and helping me run a ride for a couple hours, and they, oh yeah. And then I tell them, well, there's a catch. And they go, what? And I go, well, you have to wear a white shirt and a black tie. And they think I'm joking, but I said, no, I said, if you're going to work the event, so you gotta dress the part. So.
Well, that's impressive. He wanted everybody to be dressed up. That just, you know, his level of perfection and what he wanted to present to people. So what kind of legacy would you like to see happen with Neverland? Is there anything that you have?
Well, you know, I did an interview shortly after Mr. Jackson passed away. I can't remember. I still have a link to it. It wasn't voiced or video. It was written or typed. But I was asked that question back then, and I said, you know, it would be hard for me to go back out there without Mr. Jackson being there. But if they took it back to how it was back in its heyday, and concentrated on just doing charity events, I think it'd be great. I said, I don't, there's a lot of problems with that. The San Ynez Valley, they don't want all that traffic going up Figueroa Mountain Road, which I'm not a big, you know, high-paid attorney or anything. I came up with what I thought was a simple answer to that. But anyway, I think it would be nice to open it back up. I don't want to say open it up to the public where anybody can go there anytime, because obviously it would be overwhelmed. They would have to do some reservations or whatever, but they would have to dedicate, 2 or 3 days a week to just being closed to the public and just doing like what we did for the kids in the hospital and the inner city kids. I mean, that to me would be, I think, what Mr. Jackson would like to see happen. If that was a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But just to have it open all the time to the public, I don't think that would be, it would end up getting tore up, I think.
So to continue his charity work and
Right, yeah. But I mean, I'm sure they could figure out, like they could even, I'm sure they could sell bed and breakfasts for whatever they wanted, and to maintain the operating cost to run the place, but they have to dedicate some days to being closed to the public and just there for, like I said, for the type of groups that we used to do. That's what I'd like to see. Now, whether or not, could that really work? I don't know, but if it could work, that's what I would really like to see.
Yeah, that's a beautiful vision.
Yeah, must have been incredible for you to see that. Like you witnessed the effect that the Neverland Ranch had on children. And you saw their faces and their joy and escapism. So that must have been a very like what an honor, to see that.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's even, it's funny, occasionally there would be, some big celebrities, sometimes huge celebrities, and they would be as blown away as the typical fan or whatever. They probably live in a $10 million house themselves, and they come out there and they're just like, their eyes are sticking out of their head. This is Michael Jackson. Is he home? I go, well, he's not here this time. He said, well, you make sure and tell him that I said hello. Okay. And then we're talking big celebrity, entertainer. Well, that was a sports figure there that did that, but
you referred to you say that when he came, or he was down at the ranch, or he was home, like was he away a lot? So, like, is that why you say he was at the ranch, or sometimes you sort of
I would say the first several years that I worked there, I would say he was probably only home maybe 2 weeks out of the whole year.
Right.
Wow.
The Dangerous tour was on then, and then either working in the studio or whatever. It was, the tour was whatever, 18 months or something. There was a break somewhere in the middle, but he was gone a lot. It got, obviously when he had kids, his own kids, it became a little more frequent. And then of course towards the end he was there pretty much all the time. But in the beginning he wasn't there. He was working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My understanding is around 1994 when he was married to Lisa. In 95 he was in New York for almost a year recording there, and I don't know if he came back or not. But so that's interesting to hear that he wasn't really there a lot for those years.
Yeah, it really gives you an insight into his life and what his life was like, and it had always been like that since he was 6 and 7 years old. He'd never been home for a long time.
Right. Yeah.
So to him,
I truly believe he absolutely loved Neverland, because he grew up in the house in Havenhurst, and I'm sure it's a nice house and all that, but to have all that room, it's like he can really breathe. It's like he could hop in his car and go into San Ynez, and the people in San Ynez, they really didn't, the people that were residents that lived in the San Ynez Valley didn't really bug him and all that. He would go, Solvang is a very touristy town. And I remember one time he went down to some antique shop there, and there was a family, they were Asian, and they were there. I think they were, I guess, because they didn't speak really good English. They might have been from out of the country. But anyway, they were so excited. The guy almost broke the door off his van trying to get out and take a picture and whatnot. And Mr. Jackson went over and said, hey, you guys want to come out and see my place?
Really?
they followed him from Solvang all the way out to the ranch, and he told him, he said, now you got to leave your cameras at the security. So the security took their cameras and they came in, and the security called me. He told them, because call Big Al and tell him to make sure the train's ready. And that was another one of those days. I think I was there by myself because we weren't anticipating guests that day. And so anyway, I spent the day entertaining that fan. They were absolutely blown away by getting invited out. I'm sure that made their whole trip to the United States the most exciting thing they've ever done in their lives.
Imagine.
Well, and you hear that he was so giving, like he would just offer his ranch to fans to come down and visit. And like you say, he ran into this family he doesn't know from holding ground, and he's like, come on down, and enjoy the ranch. Is that really what he was like? He was just, that's incredible to me. Wow. Yeah, very giving. Sounds like very giving.
Oh, yeah.
And trusting, like, who are these people from, in the antique store? It's like, luckily Big Al's there to make sure everything's oh, that's amazing.
Can we ask you a book question, as we are a book club?
Yeah.
Have you read any books about Michael Jackson?
The only one I read, and I read this a long time ago because he actually gave me a copy of it at Neverland, was Moonwalker.
Mm.
And I breezed through the American Master, and I've purchased a lot of books. And I think part of the reason I haven't read any of them yet is because I really do want to write my own book. And I think I kind of want to, I in a way, I kind of I'd like to read what other people said, so I'm not like copying it. But on the other hand, I kind of like to just do my thing from start to finish. And hopefully if I tell a story that somebody else told, I don't insult them. I don't know, but.
Well, it's your story. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. That you wouldn't want to, if you write yours down first and then read the other ones. I get that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we read a lot of books, and there's some people that are barely, there's some books out there that they worked there for 2 weeks and they wrote a book. So we're happy to get a book from you for 15 years. Like you're not like just dropping his name to make money or whatever. It's a different thing. It's about sharing. It's important for the world to know who he was, what he was like, and what kind of person he was. It's, that those stories are being lost, and we want them to be out there. We'll read it. We'll be there. We'll read it like probably 3 times over at least. Our book club is we're a bunch of nerds that love reading about the good books. Obviously, we read a lot of books, but the truthful and honest people and the genuine people, and we all love him, and we want his legacy to continue, and we just want everybody to know what he's about the way we know him, or that we don't even know him, but you do. But we have a sense of what he was about just from learning and studying him. So.
Yeah, I tell people, I said, there's a lot of stories I have. Well, everything I have is very positive, and everything is very important, obviously, to the fans and his legacy. And I tell people I got to meet, when I tell stories about Mr. J, I know the fans love to hear the stories, and I love to tell the stories. But when you're talking to somebody else, and this happened to me, I was actually working the LA County Fair. I was doing the safety there. And I know the people at Wilson Productions is the company that puts on all the stage acts there, the bands. And every year I go over there and say hello to all the people I know at Wilson Productions. And it was the middle of the afternoon. I go over there and talking to Luis, and he goes, "Hey, your boss's family's here." I go, "What?" He goes, "The Jackson brothers." I go, "Really?" And this was after Michael passed away. And they were doing I guess they did a tour. But anyway, they were playing the LA County Fair. And I said, "No, they're not." I didn't figure they were there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon because the show wasn't until like 7 o'clock at night. But he goes, "No, they're all here." I said, "I don't know if any of them remember me." So I went back and I said hello, and everybody I talked to remembered me. Well, I got to meet Tommy Organ, the guy that was going to play guitar on This Is It. Is that his name, Tommy Organ?
I don't know. There's 2 guitarists.
anyway, the guy was going to play guitar. I know the girl. The girl was played lead guitar.
Yeah.
Right. And then there was a big. I mean, this guy could have bench pressed a house. He was huge. Anyway, he's there and he's playing with the brothers. He's playing guitar with the brothers. And when I saw him in the, when I watched the This Is It video and I saw his interview, I could tell that if I ever met this guy, we were going to get along, because I could tell he instantly got Michael. And I could tell he was just loyal, dedicated, and understood Michael. And as soon as we met, we both immediately knew. And he looked at me and goes, you get it. And I tell people, I said, when you're talking to somebody that really that was lucky enough to be like I was around him all those years and really get to know him, I go, it's really, you kind of get this energy going about you that, you're around. I tell him it's kind of like Vietnam veterans. I said, when a guy's telling a story about Vietnam to somebody that wasn't there, they just don't really get. I mean, they appreciate his story and all that, and they're interested in it. But when you're talking about somebody that was there, like, and that, he wasn't around him all that long, but he was around him enough to really get to know him. And I said, you can be around Michael for a very short period of time and get to figure him out. He makes it very easy,
Yeah, I saw your comment yesterday on Taj's broadcast that what came to mind was that, you had to be there. You had to know, you just had to know you had to be there. Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was Tommy Oregon, right?
Tommy
Oregon.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
He had some great people around him.
Wow, that's amazing. So yeah, so Tammy, remember when you did a post yesterday with Taj's updates about his project?
Yes. Sherry did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you copied what he said, and he said about how nobody would know about Mozart and Shakespeare and all these greats if people hadn't told their story at the time, hadn't been recorded. And he actually said that yesterday, and I really feel that talking to you, Big Al, today and doing these book club interviews and encouraging people to write down their story so that the researchers of the future will have the truth, and we can readdress that balance. There are some awful tabloid negative books out there, people just trying to make a quick buck. But the more positive books that are written, they will kind of be the ones that will last into the future. And that's what's important now, isn't it? It's that legacy building.
Yes. Yeah. So Sherry shared that with us in our group, and she said, what Taj's project's trying to do, he said 2 very important basic facts is that Michael Jackson was not some fictional character from a book or movie. He was a human being with emotions and feelings. The other point was that Michael Jackson died an innocent, vindicated man. Sensationalized stories about the king of pop earned billions of dollars, but at what cost? Michael died over a decade ago, but many of those most damaging, unfounded, and unsubstantiated stories remain part of the public consciousness, causing continual damage to his legacy and to his children who have had to grow up watching the world embrace and perpetuate these horrific falsehoods. This is Taj's description of what he's trying to do. This series will also dive into the unreported side of Michael Jackson's life, his humanitarianism, and how he dedicated most of his life and earnings to charity. The time has come to take action and formally correct the record before it's too late. The history books are already being written, and many of them read like bad fairy tales, provable falsehoods, and recycled time and time again as facts. Remember, we only know Mozart, Bach, Debussy, or Beethoven by what we have read from available resources. Hundreds of years from now, people will look up Michael Jackson's name and music. We owe it to the future generations to provide a resource built on the truth. That's powerful.
It is.
Yeah, so that's what his goal is with his series, with what he's trying to do. So, and that's why we have these interviews, or we study him, and it's these little stories, and they're going to be recorded on YouTube, and maybe people look back and see these stories and get a feel of what he was about. Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So what would you want people to know? Like if you had to say, what do I want people to know about him? If I could just say one thing, what would it be? Or a couple things, not one thing, but what would you want?
Well, I think because of his, when you look at his celebrity status, I mean, it's, I guess some people argue, but there's probably nobody that reached the celebrity status he did.
Mm-hmm.
He's extremely wealthy. And when you try to tell people of what a really down-to-earth person he was, they just find it hard to believe. And I really think that, I mean, I want his music and dance to live on forever, but I really want people to know that he really was a very down-to-earth, genuine, sincere, caring person. And I mean, the one thing I've always been a pretty calm person. Matter of fact, I had a very good friend of mine who used to always tell people is that if Big Al was any calmer, he'd be in a coma. But the one thing I really learned around working for Mr. Jackson is that no matter where you're at in status, there's always somebody. You can be down at the bottom. You can think that your life is in the toilet and can't get any worse, and there's somebody worse off than you, and you can do something to help that person. And Michael was one of those type of people that would, I mean, he just wanted to help everybody. And I think that's an important part of his legacy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, his fan base is strong, and that is exactly why we do this, is because we know we have an idea of what he was about, and we wouldn't fight for somebody if he wasn't like that. We wouldn't bother. Nobody else fighting for these artists like we do. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Big Al. Thank you for being a member of the book club and participating. And when you write your book, we'll be here. We'll be your personal publicists, spreading it all over, and we'll have you back on to talk about it.
All right. Yeah.
If you'll come.
Hopefully we'll be back into where we can socialize, and I'll make the tour, selling my books on the street corner or something.
Yes, we would love to have a book event in LA someday, have a book, Michael Jackson book club. I think that we go, like with the media and how they've treated him and hounded him. I think he'd be kind of thinking it's funny that a book club and, we're getting these stories through a book club. I think he'd get a joke that would be funny to him, He's such an avid reader apparently, and we study him. So we know he owned 10,000 books, and he encouraged, education and studying the greats. So that's what we try to do. So we would love to have an event where you're there and your books are there and get your autograph.
I did a couple of events with Brad Sumberg, the seminars he does, and which they're mostly around the music part of it, but he dedicates about a half a day to Neverland, because he did all the sound systems out there. And I've gone to a couple of those and got up and told stories. And it was a blast getting to do that. So.
Yeah, where does he do? Oh yeah, too bad we couldn't get one, in Neverland. That would be amazing. But
yeah, he does one in LA, and he does one in Orlando where he lives, and he does several of them around the globe, or all over in Europe and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice. I wish we could do something in Neverland. That would be kind of fun to do.
Maybe you can find an inn.
Yeah.
Host our book club event there.
Yeah. Well, the guy that is in partners with the estate on it. I mean, he throws parties out there. He owns several companies, and I don't know. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I guess you got to know the right phone number to call to make it happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, it'd be tough. It'd be kind of tough. The last time I left there, I passed that sign every day. I didn't even think anything of it. But the last time I left there, and I knew it was going to be the last time I left there, he's got a sign as you leave. It says "Goodbye for now," and he wanted it to say "Goodbye for now" because he wanted everybody to, in the back of their head, think I get to come back someday. And the last time I passed that sign, I knew it wasn't going back. So. it'd be tough to go back now, I think.
Yeah. So the goodbye for now, was that something that the ranch had, or was it just there in the area, or was it part of?
Well, you see where the gate behind me, that is, as soon as those gates open, you're basically on what we call the main house property. If you go the opposite direction, you kind of go up a hill and you go down that hill into the next valley, and then there's the gate that is out on Figueroa Mountain Road. Well, right as you crest that hill, there's a sign that he had put up, and it says Neverland. He says goodbye for now. And he said that he wanted people that when they left, because nobody ever wants to leave there. So he wanted people to, in the back of their mind, he wanted them to think, oh, goodbye for now. That means I get to come back sometimes.
Oh, that's beautiful. I didn't know that.
I have a picture of it somewhere on my computer. I'll have to, if I can find it, I'll email it to you so you can put it on your.
We'd like that.
I mean, all the times I went by it, I mean, I understood, well, I guess the first few times I went by it, I just like, whatever. And then one day I was like, I get it. I know what he's trying to say. He wants, after you're out there for a few of these groups, and some of these people have never been there before, and you understand how excited they are, and then you understand what he's trying to do with that sign. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Usually it says, goodbye, thanks for coming, or whatever, but it says goodbye for now.
I wonder, our understanding with our research is that when he would visit sick children in the hospital, sometimes he would give them a piece of like clothes, like his jacket or something, to give them hope that, to hold on, so that, I'm going to see you in a couple weeks on my next, maybe that's part of it. These 6 children coming to the ranch, and then he's giving them that hope, saying, I'll see you, for now, like, because I've read some of the quotes. He said that, he gives people, he tries to give these children hope to hang on for him. Like, so here's the beat it or whatever jacket, I'll see you when I'm in your town, and you're going to be at my concert, just to give them some hope. So, wow, that just made me like, oh, that's a beautiful message for the sick children to see that, right? Leaving, going goodbye for now. Wow. He, it seems like, again, I don't know him, but when we study him, there's lots of hidden like messages and things, like in his costumes and his everything, his art, his artistry, messages all the time.
Yeah, you got everybody tearing up on the comments here.
Yeah.
That was a big wow.
He cared about everybody. I mean, I'll tell you a story, and this might not mean the whole. To me, it meant a lot because it is about me. I hate to say that about me, but so he's in New York. He's been gone for, I don't know, months and months and months and months. And we have some guests on property, and I get a call on the radio from security. It's kind of late at night, probably about 8. It's a winter night, so it's chilly out. It's about 8 o'clock, and they say, "Do you have some of the guests, or do you have the guests in the amusement park?" And I said, "I have some of the guests in the amusement park." He said, "Can you take them to a phone? They have a phone call." Well, I knew that had to be Mr. Jackson checking in on them, and so I take them in there, and I tell them what extension to transfer it to, because I took them in the theater because it's nice and warm, and so there's like 3 or 4 of them. I said, "There's a phone." I said, "Just whenever, I'll be waiting for you whenever you're done." Well, then the security calls me back on the radio and says, "Tell them not to hang up because there's some other guests in the house that want to talk to him." So I went back in and I told these people, I said, "Don't hang up. I need to transfer the call to another phone for somebody else that wants to talk to him." Okay. So they must have talked for an hour, and I'm outside. It's like 40 degrees. I'm like, man, what is going on there? So anyway, they come out and they're all laughing and joking. They want to go ride some more rides. I said, "Did you hang up?" "Yeah, he said he had to." Now he's in New York, and so now I don't know what it was, 1 o'clock in the morning back there, or whatever. And he said, "Yeah, he had to hang up, but he'll call back later." I said, "Okay." So we go over to the park and I run the rides a little bit, and then they're done. It's cold. I'm getting ready to shut down. And I go up to the train depot, and there's a little bit involved in shutting the steam train down. You don't just shut it off. But anyway, so I'm up there doing my thing with the steam train and security. You know, this is like, I'm going to say probably maybe at least an hour, 2 hours, probably 2 hours after the phone call. And security calls me on the radio, on the two-way radio, and says, "Are you by an extension?" And I told him what extension I was at. And the phone rings, and I answered. I wasn't like angry or anything, but I didn't answer with my typical, because I was ready to go home. I said, "Yes," and it was Michael. And I'm thinking, why is he calling me? And he just starts talking. He said, "I'm in New York, and I'm working on this. I'm working on history and this and that, and blah blah." He's talking like, and I mean, again, I was, kind of overwhelmed and excited that he's having this conversation with me, but I didn't really know where we were going. And then finally he goes, what did you want? And I go, "What do you mean, what did I want?" and I immediately thought, well, that's pretty cool that I can want something. And he just called and asked me what it was. And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, the guest said that you wanted to talk to me." And I started laughing. I said, "Oh," I said, "No," I said, "Actually, the other guests were in the house. And I was going to transfer the call." And so then he just went back to talking about the history album and this and that. And he goes, "Hey, now I haven't seen him in, I'm going to say at least 6 months, maybe 8 months." He goes, "How's your knee?" And I'm like looking around, what is he talking about? I said, and I was kind of silent for a minute. And he must have figured that I'd lost my mind or whatever. He goes, "Your knee, how's your knee?" And I go, "It's okay." And again, I had the tone of my voice gave it away that I didn't have a clue what he's talking about. He says, "Big Al, last time I saw you, you were on crutches." And I did. I hyperextended my knee, and I had to have some arthroscopic surgery. I mean, it hurt like crazy. And I was on crutches for a while. And I thought to myself, this guy remembered that? I mean, it just blew me away that he remembered that and remembered to ask. The last time he saw me, I was on crutches. And he cared enough 8 months later to ask me. I mean, to me, it meant a lot. It really meant a lot to me. It took me a minute, after we said our greetings or whatever and hung up. I go, that's pretty cool. He remembered more about me than I did. I was injured last time he saw me. So, I mean, he cares about everybody. He wanted to know how my knee was. I mean, I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, that's a lovely story.
Oh, yeah, there's so many stories out there. We just want them all,
Yeah.
want them all on a series, something available. Oh, so he remembers.
Well, I'm getting better. I've actually started writing notes down and bullet points and this and that. I just have to get after it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you start your book, you can lay it all out on paper, and it'll just come to you. Just like he said it'll just come, from. Yeah. You'll have something to do with it. I think he seems to have, even now, he has a little bit of impact in everybody's life still, even in the book club. Just does,
Well, he still, I can tell you this, and hopefully I don't get too emotional over this, but he still has a big influence on me. I'm telling you, at least once a month, I will have I'm one of those people that do not remember dreams at all. I can't stand people that, I shouldn't say I can't stand them, but it bugs me when people, "Man, I had this dream," and they'll go into like an hour-long description. I go, I don't ever remember any of my dreams. Well, I remember these at least once a month. I still, to this day, have a dream where I'm at Neverland getting everything ready for Michael to come home. And then at some point, I don't know if I wake up and realize it, or I realize it and then wake up, but I realize he's not here anymore. And I wake up in tears.
Oh, does he ever talk to you in the dream?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah, we do. Yeah, I believe in that.
Hey, how come there's still bird poop on that fence? You've been here cleaning all day. But yeah, I mean, it was like, having conversations, this and that, not telling me to, what lottery numbers to draw or anything, but
He's visiting you.
Yeah, typical, like we're getting ready for guests to come home, you know. And then at some point I wake up and realize that's not going to happen.
Oh, that must be so hard.
But I'm glad that he's still, you know, I mean, as sad as it is when I wake up and realize he's not here, but it's still nice to, you know, it's still such a big part of me that I still, at least I have it, at least like, hey, I have a dream I remember now.
So like all these years, you have the dream. All these years, you still continue to have it.
I'd say at least once a month. Yeah.
Wow. You know, he's checking on you once a
Sure
month.
I'm sure I'll have one tonight just from, you know, from this, you know, spending this much time talking about it. I'm sure I'll have one tonight. So.
Yeah.
Nice. That's comforting to have that.
No, I mean, I hope I never don't have them. I'm glad I have them. Even, like I said, even as traumatic or sad as it is when I realize, you know, it's not going to happen, I still am glad that I have that few moments of, you know, back there panicking, getting ready. We used to call it showtime. It's showtime.
So he's ready. You're just preparing showtime for him. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
That's just, everybody's like, oh my God, beautiful stories. Like everybody's just in awe of you and your stories, you know, and your compassion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know, when we have dreams, sometimes it means we have unfinished business to take care of. Mm-hmm.
You're preparing Neverland for him still, but maybe that's part of your book, you know, but you're preparing his legacy. You're part of his legacy. You are part of his history.
Yeah.
We all are in a way, I guess, just continuing this.
Yeah.
And it's Halloween and it's, you know, October, and this is like turned into synonymous with Michael Jackson, you know, Halloween Thrilloween they call it now.
Yeah.
It's like it's good to have these talks and how beautiful Neverland was, how amazing it was. And you were part of that. It's incredible.
Yeah, I wrote something. Where did I write it? About after seeing ghosts several times at the ranch, and I said, and by the way, the theater at Neverland is the place to see ghosts. I go, and hear it. I mean, the sound system was incredible. But we would take these groups in, and I would tell them a little bit about it, I forgot where I was going with that. Neverland Ghost. It'll come back. Oh, I was on the internet. What did I put on the app? Did I email one of you about this? I've lost track of it now. But I was excited about the fact that everybody's like pushing for a DVD, Blu-ray, whatever. I mean, it's like, hasn't the estate released that thing?
Mm-hmm.
I know Taj was talking about how Michael owns October between Thriller and Ghost.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. And yeah, we need it all to be, you know, available to buy. On, you know, it's crazy that it's only just come out on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's a lost
program. I put a bunch of my stuff in storage for security reasons. And I tried to find it the other day. I got a program. I had it framed, and unfortunately, Mr. Jackson signed the front, and Stan Winston signed it, but he signed it inside next to one of his pictures. But it was a program from when they debuted it at the film festival.
Oh wow!
Wow!
I'll dig it out one of these days and take a picture of it and send it to you so you can see it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, we would love to have you. You know, we talk anytime. You know, want to talk or share your stories. You'll probably think of more one day, you know. I'm sure you have a lot of them. Just crazy. There's lots of people commenting too that you were part of his legacy, Al. You're all making me tear up. This was so nice to listen to. This is so special. This made me cry. I don't see, I don't know what that is. Yeah, his memory was outstanding. Hear stories like this all the time. It's just, everybody's just so, you have no idea, I don't think, how much of a gift this is for us. It really is, like for people, for us, and for people in the book club or fan community, which will be on YouTube, like how to hear about these stories that we don't know about, you know, just to get to know them. It means a lot, and to come together in this, you know, pandemic and just whatever, just and otherwise, but just to share this love, you know, for him, it's really important to people out there.
It's important to me too, because it's I mean, these are stories that need to be told, and I really enjoy telling them, especially when it's a group of people that really appreciate it. And so it's good for me too. I mean, it's therapeutic for me. It helps me bring back, you know, good memories, and I feel it's just something important that needs to be said.
We have a big book club too, so I know that there's a lot of we have some professors in there, and we have editors, and we have who knows what's going to happen through that connection, you know, with helping you with your book. Maybe there'll be volunteers out there that'll want to help you out, you know, because it's true. There's one thing you can say what you need to say, and then they'll make it sound, you know, the way it's supposed to in a book. You know, I don't know how to do that personally, but but there are people out there in our book club that do know how to do these things.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be great. So do you have any plans for Halloween? I know Halloween's tomorrow, and
you know, I don't think so. I mean, I'm in Arizona, and Arizona's kind of wide open. I mean, fairly wide open, but I don't think I'm going to do anything.
Yeah, me neither. We're all in lockdown. We're wearing our little Michael Jackson, whatever we need to have on. That's our Halloween, is celebrating him, I guess. Yeah. Any other questions out there, everybody? Do you have anything, Al, you wanted to let us know about? We can sit here for another hour. We're fine. It's whatever you want to talk about.
Let's see. Well, we talked about the ghost wrap party. Oh, well, since it's Halloween, Michael, you know, he was a fan of costumes. So this was not Halloween. This was 4th of July. Michael's also a fan of fireworks. In the middle of the summer, in the middle of 2,700 acres of somewhat dry oak trees and sycamore trees, we couldn't have the fireworks like Mr. Jackson wanted. And through our fire department, who was friends with the guy that was the captain of the fire department in Lompoc, and they do the fireworks show. They do it at the high school football arena stadium, and so we said, well, are you interested in going and seeing a fireworks show? Because we could get him in the event through the back gate, and only 2 people were going to know. That was the captain of the fire department and the sheriff working the back gate. The captain said, I won't tell any of my guys. I said, obviously I know because you're talking to me. And I said, I got to tell the sheriff working the back gate, and but nobody will know. Okay. So we loaded up Michael, and he had some friends over. So there was about, I want to say there's like, I don't know, 6 or 8 people total. And we drive to Lompoc. It's about 30 miles. And on the way over, everybody in the back is getting dressed up into chic outfits. I'm thinking, well, now, for those of you that don't know where Lompoc is, it's right on, it's Vandenberg Air Force Base there. You see a lot of missiles launched from there and whatnot. It's kind of a military town. But there's not, to the best of my knowledge, I've never seen an Arab sheik there. So I'm thinking, well, I don't know if this costume thing's going to work, because everybody's going to go, what the heck is that? So anyways, but where we pulled out the van and parked was in a restricted area. The nearest patron was, you know, probably at least 500 feet away. This was all roped off and secured because it was where the fire department set up their camp and controlled all the fireworks from. So we were there, and everything was, you know, pretty groovy. Nothing, you know, no problems. And so the lights go down, and they start the fireworks show, and Mr. Jackson decides he wants to walk over closer to where there's an entire football stadium full of people. And he walks, and I'm like, what are we gonna do? We can't, you know. So like, all I can do is follow and hope I can get him back, because they're gonna do, I don't know, like 30 minutes of fireworks, and then lights are gonna come on. They're gonna have a band or 2 play, and then the lights are gonna go off and do some more fireworks. So I'm thinking, well, hopefully I can get him out of here before, before all the lights come back on. So anyway, we go through this fireworks display, and the stadium had the old style mercury vapor lights where when they first come on, they're really dim. They have to kind of warm up a little bit. So I'm like, come on. I'm about ready to go over and nudge him. He's got that perfect timing down. He knows right. I mean, he got up right when those lights started coming on bright. We started walking back over to the encampment where he wasn't going to be around anybody. And sure enough, here's 2 or 3 police officers walking towards us. Now we're in a restricted area, and I'm actually wearing a firefighter's turnout coat, but Mr. Jackson and these guests are all dressed up like Arab sheiks. And the cops walk up and they look at me like maybe I know what I'm doing because I'm wearing a firefighter's coat, but they go, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, we're just going over here to where the firefighters are." And they go, "Well," they're like pointing to these people, and they go, "Well, they can't come over here." And I'm like, I don't know what to say. And finally I looked at Michael and he looked at me, and I go, I looked at the cop and I go, "This is Michael Jackson." And they both just started laughing, and Michael pulled his thing down a little bit like that, and they went, "Okay." That was his dressing up like for Halloween. So the next year we went over there, I said, "Please don't dress up like an Arab sheik. I think everybody figured out who you were. We got to do something this year." So we didn't go in costume, and we didn't walk over by the people. Oh, I got to tell you, during halftime, so the band comes on. It's live music. And where I'm standing, Michael and I are standing at the back of a pickup truck. And he's like on this side, and I'm at the back, and we're both just like standing there talking. And the cab of the way the truck's parked, the view of the stage his view of the stage is blocked, but I can see him. And he's kind of, the music, as soon as music comes on, doesn't matter what kind of music it is, he's like, doing this. So I know he's, and he goes, I said, he said, that's programmed in. And I said, "No, it's not." He goes, "Yeah, it is." I said, "I can see him. It's a live band." And right as I said that, I thought, why am I arguing with Michael Jackson about music? I said, he wouldn't argue with me about building a roller coaster. Why would I argue? And so then he was patient with me, being a stupid student that I am. So he started explaining to me. He says, "No," he says, "I understand it's a live band, but there are certain parts of it." And it's just like him, certain things that Brad Buxer would do that, to his foot, sound effects or whatever. I mean, there are certain things that are pre-programmed or computerized or whatever. So he patiently explained it to the dumb music student I am. And so that was one of my, it wasn't a Halloween story, but it was him getting dressed up.
As a sheik. Wow.
Yeah, that's funny. Wow. And we have a question from Judy Reese to you.
All right, Judy.
Yeah, she's listening in, and her question is, can we ask Al where the big steam train is now, because we need to open up Neverland again for event days?
Oh, well, I can't tell you where. I can tell you that both trains on the carousel are safe and secure. Somewhere in Southern California. I actually go and check on them every once in a while. That's all I can tell you. But they are, because actually when Michael made the decision to close the ranch down, he says, "I want both trains on that carousel." Because the carousel, it's just a typical 50-foot carousel, but I shouldn't say it's it's a 50-foot carousel that anybody can buy, except he had, when somebody does a nice carousel, the outside circle, they call it jeweled. I mean, they're just little pieces of plastic, but they look like jewels that are stuck all over the horse. And some people, the 50-foot carousel is what they call 4 abreast. There was 4 sets of horses, and from inside to outside of the circle. And he had some people that really want to go fancy will do the first 2 rows jeweled. We went 3 rows, plus we had all kinds of custom artwork and poetry. I mean, it was very, very customized for Mr. Jackson. And so anyway, those three pieces are all in storage and safe and sound last time I looked anyway. So.
That's good to know.
And if it ever happens that we need to get those back, we can. And now all the rest of the rides, I know where most of them went. The chances of getting them back are probably slim, but I know we could get the 2 trains and the carousel back. And actually, the bumper cars is on location at the Cal Expo, California State Fairgrounds. A carnival bought it, but it's not a portable ride. It can't really be moved. I mean, we got moved from Neverland up there, but it's not designed to be moved on a regular basis like a carnival would. So the carnival made a deal with a fair. They set it up there, and it is on display up there. I was there for the ribbon cutting ceremony. It was kind of nice. The fair manager and Butch Butler, who was the carnival owner that purchased it, they made a very big deal and kept the Neverland sign. They wanted it to be even with any negative stuff out there. They were proud of the fact that it was Michael Jackson's and wanted to let everybody know it was. And so,
that's wonderful.
Sacramento, when you go by the fairgrounds, you can go see the bumper cars.
Wow, that's fascinating. But I think more people should know so they can go on a holy trail and holy grail of where all these things are and go and try and ride them.
That's good, but because that's the thing. Like Shirley Alves is saying that, oh wow, I didn't know that. People have said that the carousel was sold and used in other carnivals. So it's good that we're finding out what's what.
Yeah, both trains on the carousel are still property of the estate.
Wow, that's good.
And they're all inside of buildings, so they're being protected from the weather and everything. And the steam train is probably the boiler part of it. If they ever decided to use it again, would probably require quite a bit of work because it wasn't really, when they closed the ranch down, it wasn't like, hey, you got a day, you got 24 hours or whatever to get. You don't just shut a steam train off and walk away from it for 10 years or whatever. It's all the water inside, it does damage. So it would probably require some work to the boiler, but the outside of it, cosmetically, it still looks, I mean, it's dusty, but spend the day polishing that brass up and putting some teak oil on that wood, and it looked just like
it was beautiful. We have a question from Donna Hickey. So did Michael have a particular ride that he would go on more than others?
I would say that without a doubt, it's probably a close tie between the Sea Dragon and the bumper cars. He liked both of those quite a bit, and when we went to those, you could just about guarantee we're going to be there for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. The bumper car is usually a little bit longer, but for those of you that have never been to Neverland, it's typical bumper cars has a bar coming out of the back of the car because there's electricity in the floor and on the roof. Well, ours was designed where everything's in the floor, so there was no stinger on the back, and it was a fairly good sized building, and it had 2 small islands in the middle that were just basically kind of traffic direction things. They had fog machines at them, and of course Brad Sundberg did his magic with this incredible sound system, and we had huge strobe lights. We had, the whole roof was full of ultraviolet black lights. So they would ride the bumper cars for 15-20 minutes. Then we'd push all the cars back, and it had this big, nice, smooth floor. And of course, with the sound system, all these, the strobe lights and the fog machines, he just told me to play this song and that song and this song and that song and this song, and they'd dance in there for another 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So it was a dual purpose building. It was a bumper cars, and then we pushed the cars back. You still had, when the cars were pushed all the way back against the ends, you had a dance floor that was basically, probably 30 foot by 50 foot. So, and we had fog, like I said, we had fog machines and black lights and strobe, a mirror ball. I mean, it was a bona fide disco. So, wow. So yeah, we'd ride the ride for a while, and then we dance. Well, not we, I didn't dance, but
That must have been incredible to see that. Michael Jackson dancing in the middle of his bumper cars. Oh my God, a dream.
Yeah, the only one that really got me more than watching him dance, because he was, I mean, it's just amazing to watch him. And I watch all these people that are impersonators and do tributes and stuff, and they're all very talented. But I just don't think I've ever seen anybody that he just does it so smooth. I mean, I can, like, even when I went and saw the History concert, as soon as the Thriller guy come out from underneath the floor and started dancing, I go, that is not Michael. He's taking a break.
You can tell.
I was right. I mean, that guy was close, but he just wasn't quite as smooth. So,
Yeah.
but the biggest chills I got, and I've told this story before. I don't know if any of you have ever heard it, but and this actually chokes me up even a little bit to talk about it. But so we have a group of kids. There was a private school across the street, Midland School.
Oh yeah.
We would throw a party for them once in a while. The school asked us. Ask Michael if he could not come over here and invite the whole school, because we can't tell him no, but we'd like him to invite, like, you know, let's say this month, let's bring the lower classmen, and next month, let's take the upper. So we only have half of them gone and half of them. So I don't remember which half we had there, and they only come over for a little, just, maybe an hour or so. But they're in the theater. They went to the arcade for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. And then went to the park for 15 or 20 minutes. And then they went in the theater and watched Ghosts. So, and I give them my little speech about Ghosts. And Michael was actually there that day with them and hung out with them, partied with them. And now when I tell him about I give him a little speech about the video, about Ghosts. And the projectionist starts it. And I walk out front to steal a Reese's peanut butter cup. And Mr. goes out there and caught me. And he goes, I'm going to go in the dance studio for a minute. He goes, there's a girl in there that it's her 16th birthday. He goes, when the credits start, and I always tell him, I said, you have to watch the credits and pay attention, because it just tells so much about the effects and Michael getting made up with all these characters. So when he told me, when the credits start, go get her and bring her into the dance studio, I was about to tell him she can't go with them because I gave her some homework to do. She has to. But anyway, I didn't argue with him. I said, okay. And he didn't tell me why or what was going on. He just said it's her birthday. So as soon as the credits roll, I go in there, and I don't know who it is, but I go in there and ask the teacher. There was one chaperone there. I said, whose birthday is it? And he pointed her out. So I went over and tapped her on the shoulder. And I said, you need to come with me for a minute. And she's like, she thought she was in trouble. She goes, what? And I go, somebody wants to talk to you out in the lobby. And okay. So I go out there and there's nobody there. I said, well, come on over here. So I open up the door. And if you've seen a picture of the dance studio, it's a pretty good sized room. It's a hardwood floor, and there's nothing. There's all mirrors on this side and sound system on this side, and the little restroom, makeup room thing over here. And he's all the way at the far end, about, I don't know, 6 or 8 feet from the wall. And there's this antique black rocking chair, and all you can see is just like this much of the top of his fedora. And that's all you can see. And she's like, now she's actually kind of scared, like she doesn't know what's going on. I go, he asked me, he said, he wants to talk to you. He's over there, go over there. So, and I had to stay and watch what the heck is going on here. So she goes over, and again, timing. I mean, the second she gets to the chair, he stands up, turns around, and he gets down on one knee, not to propose, but he gets down on one knee and takes her hand, and he sang happy birthday to her.
Oh my God.
I thought I was going to die. I mean, telling the story right now, my hair stands up and I get a little teary eyed, because I'm just like, that is amazing. First of all, I was just blown away just being in the same room with him while he's singing a cappella. And then I was like, what he's doing to this girl's life is just like, she's going to have a smile on her face till the day she dies over that, like, and going back to, you're not going to believe what happened. You're right. We don't believe it.
How thoughtful. Oh my God.
That was another big moment for me.
Oh, you have so many stories. Oh my goodness.
Oh, we all have goosebumps. We're just imagining being sang Happy Birthday by Michael Jackson while he kneels in front of you and takes your hand. Oh my God.
Like, yeah, you got all the girls going with that story.
Yeah. We're all
I'm
fans
sorry,
right now.
there's a few people out there that are going, they're oohing and on over that one. So even it chokes me up just because, I mean, to be there and experience it, it was quite.
What did she do? What was her
Yeah,
reaction?
what was the reaction?
I don't think she actually broke down and cried. I mean, she might have later, but she was like, I think she stopped breathing. I think she was just like, she was just like, she can't believe this is happening to her. I mean, she just was, I think she was in shock almost. So I'd have to go and smack her and say, Gabe, you got to breathe once in a while, you know. But yeah, it was, I think I was in shock too. So I probably didn't really care what was going on with her. I was like, I just can't believe I'm sitting here witnessing this. You know?
Oh my God, that's not in any book ever. Nope. That's a beautiful story. That's
well, there's only 3 people on the planet, and one of them is not with us anymore. So there's only 2 people on the planet that know that story. I mean, that can honestly take a lie detector test and witness that story. So.
Wow.
oh, everybody's like, oh my God, this is too much. Talk about 16.
Everybody is
What an incredible thing for him to just make that, just to know how important that would be to her, or you know, her sweet 16th. Like, wow. He didn't have to do that. He could have been just didn't have to do any of it.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, he didn't know who she was or anything about her, but it was her birthday, and by golly, she, you know, because it's a boarding school and all their parents are who knows where, so it's like her birthday, and she's, you know, I mean, I don't know exactly what his thoughts were. I just know that it was awesome that he did it, you know.
Wow. So this boarding school, so he would just have events for them just because they just to...
Yeah, he asked about, you know, what is that across the street? And I go, it's a private boarding. It's very pricey. I don't know what it costs now, but I mean, back then it was like, I want to say it was like 20 or 30 grand to send your kid to this. And it was like dirt floors. If you wanted hot water, you had to go out and shop. I mean, they taught them, they had to take a music or art class. And the only room in the whole place that was like really modern was the computer room. And you know, it was out in the boonies, like, you know, I mean, the nearest, they had, that ranch owned, I think they owned about the same amount as, like, you know, it was 2,000 or 3,000 acres. And then north of us was 500,000 acres of national forest. And then south of us on both sides of the road was Chamberlain, and you had 10,000 acres. So, I mean, we're out in the boonies, you know, and it was a very, I mean, when you look at the guest list, you start recognizing some of the names, you know. It was a pretty prestigious place. But the kids were like, they were great kids. I mean, we never had any problems with them. They weren't snobby or anything, but they were great kids, and they really enjoyed coming over there. But yeah, about once a month we go over and get the lower classmen, and then the next month we go get the upperclassmen. Even when Michael wasn't there, if he's in, hey, you guys done a party for Midland lately?
So on top of this hospitals, he had the schools too. Like, this is just all amongst.
Yeah.
Wow, that's like. So there was a lot of activity, like once, twice, 3 times a month. There wasn't just wow.
Yeah. And then there was different some of the local churches, charities, or whatever. Almost any employee at the ranch, if they like the Boys and Girls Club or whatever, if they had a group, not a group, but if they're having a fundraiser, he would donate. Okay, highest bidder gets to bring them and their family to Neverland. Mm-hmm. And he did all the time, and we normally we didn't bring them out just one family. We would try and wait until we got like 6 or 8 of them, because to prepare for an event, there's a certain amount of work that went into it. You really didn't want to do it for one family. So because you have to encourage overtime and this and that and whatnot. So it's just better, and it's a little bit more fun if you have one family and only one person in that family wants to ride amusement rides. They don't have as much fun as if there was 5 other families there and they had kids that want to ride amusement rides. But yeah, he would donate, a trip to the ranch to these different local charities and even other charities. And then, of course, we had the regular hospital groups in the inner city. I remember when Heal the World was still around, and I forget why, but I was in LA doing something, and The next day we were having a Heal the World event. Rick Fowler was the CEO of Heal the World. I called Rick and I go, hey, I gotta be back in LA. I'm gonna leave my truck at your building where their office was, and I'm gonna ride up on the bus with you and ride back because I have to be back in LA the next day. Oh yeah. So this is an inner city group of kids, and you can tell that these kids have probably never been out of their whatever 4-block area. And I was sitting up front with Rick Fowler. I think we were in the second seats, and there's these 2 girls in the front seat in front of us, and we get up there around Ventura, where you kind of get out of the city a little bit. And I remember we're driving. I don't remember what exit was, which it doesn't matter, but there's open fields and there's cattle. And this one girl looked at the other girl and tapped her. He goes, hey, look, real cows. Like they'd never seen real cows before. And I thought, man, oh man, this trip to Neverland is going to freak these people. We got our own crew, and they're going to see things that they never, but it just blew me away that some of these inner city kids, they never get out, they never go anywhere. You know, to see real cows, that was like a big treat for them. The rest of the day, they could turn the bus around. They already saw something they'd never seen before. You know, it's like, so I'm sure, yeah, a day at Neverland for them was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, just getting on a bus and getting out of the city is major for inner city kids. Wow.
Everybody's saying like, just when you thought you couldn't possibly love him anymore, Jesus, April saying that, like, we're just like, wow, these are things that, again, we had an impression, we knew he did these things, but to what level until now, we didn't realize about the school and about how it all was part of it. Speechless.
Yeah, there's millions of stories out there.
I'm sorry, go on.
I was just saying, there's millions of stories about people that just, they run into him somewhere and he, sends them up to the ranch for the weekend or whatever. I became very good friends with some people that he met in Solvang. They came to the ranch quite a bit just because they live close by. And since then they've moved up to Utah, super nice people. And they were actually almost like embarrassed about how much, go to the ranch, go to the ranch. We go there all the time. It's like, not that they didn't enjoy going there, but they felt like they're, wearing their welcome out, but they were, super, super nice people. I still stay in contact with them. So,
wow.
That's
what
my
you still stay in contact with people that work there and that you've met then?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, there are some few people out there that, there's kind of a fine line there. It's, it's Michael's guests, it's Michael's friends, and you can't get too close to them. There was one kid that used to come out there quite a bit, and he, through the Heal the World, and he became, good friends with Michael. But when most of the time when he came to the ranch with his family, Michael wasn't there, I was there. And then over the years, we became good friends, and we're very good friends. And it almost became an issue at one point, and Mr. Jackson and him had a talk, and he could tell how much that kid's relationship with me meant to him. I was part of the Neverland experience for him. And a lot of times he'd just come down and hang out and talk to me at the park and didn't ride rides or whatever. So anyway, it all worked out very, very well as far as we all understood where we stand. And, Mr. Jackson said what's important for this kid is, both relationships, just know that mine is mine and his is his. And, so.
Have you ever had a sort of reunion with past staff and met up together? Have you done anything like that before?
Oh, occasionally, nothing planned, but occasionally, I'll talk to people on the phone. I travel so much now with because now I go to fairs and amusement parks all over the country. So I'm hardly in one place for more than a couple of weeks at a time. But we communicate through Facebook and we talk to each other on the phone occasionally. And a few of us have said that it'd be nice to get together somewhere because we say it like I'm doing here. We start telling stories and it turns into a hug fest. And
that's okay. We love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have one of those where it's a bunch of your Judy and you and whoever.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to tie something. It'd be nice to tie something in with one of Brad's seminars down there in Los Angeles. If we could find a big enough place and we could put some, if we had enough planning and everything, it'd be nice to put because his seminars are usually 3 days, so it'd be nice to be able to put something together one of those days or evenings or something where Neverland people showed up.
Yeah, that's such a good idea. That would be amazing.
Once COVID, we can get there. Aw. Well, everybody's like this, these are the stories the world needs to hear. Oh my God, they're crying. Everybody's like so they're just like, Al, what does it say? Here's see. So this happy hearing all these stories from Big Al. At the same time, they make me cry, both happy and sad tears. And yeah, just everybody's like just loving this. You're making everybody's weekend, Halloween weekend. We're all stuck inside, but we get to have these beautiful stories to have in our minds. And I'll just have this image about this Michael singing to that girl on her birthday.
Hopefully everybody will go, today or tomorrow, they'll all go watch Ghost and Thriller a couple of times.
Yeah, for sure. Are you gonna watch that tonight again, or?
I am.
Yeah, I watched it yesterday, but I'll watch it again. It's not that long. I love it. He's so caught. He's just.
Somebody brought something up yesterday on Taj's thing, and I keep saying this in my head, but I've never brought it up until they mentioned it last night. The version, the 35 millimeter print that we had at Neverland, some of the music's different. And from what's on the final whatever you can buy, the video DVD, video CD or whatever it is. And they were talking about it last night, and they said what it was, but I can't remember. But anyway, it is there. It's a little bit. The video part of it's all the same. There's just a little bit of some editing on the music that's a little bit different. But there's a Ghost. If you watch Ghost, you got to remember this: the little blonde-headed kid that puts the mask on at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
So when we had the wrap party, when Stan Winston was there, all the actors were there. So after the balloon thing, I think they went in and had lunch, and a little bit later, Michael said, "I want you to take anybody that wants to go." We had a bunch of four-wheel ATVs, and take them and we had some fire roads for people that weren't, good at riding ATVs. We had some pretty mellow fire roads that we could go on and kind of see the back roads of the ranch. So you just take everybody, and we had to go in 2 shifts because there were more people than there was ATVs. So we're on the second. I'm on the second shift, and that kid's one of the kids, and I can tell he's a little intimidated. We gave him a smaller, to kind of fit his size, we get to the back fire road where you come down, and everybody's kind of opening it up a little bit, and then it comes to the pavement where the road that actually comes in if you're driving in a car, and this kid's way behind, so I wait for him, and he goes past me, and the ATVs, the guys that race put a throttle on like a regular motorcycle throttle, but when you buy them brand new, it's actually a thumb throttle. And when it's a bouncy road, if you're not paying attention to how you're holding your hands, you'll wind up giving it more gas instead of less gas.
Yeah.
This kid, he gave us some gas, and he hits a cattle guard, and it steers him to the right, and he goes, there's this big cement thing. It's about 20 foot in diameter, about 4 foot high, and it's a water trough for the cattle. And he hits this cattle guard, and it steers him right into this water trough. He hits it and does what we call a flying W. He's holding on the handlebars, but his body goes straight, legs straight up in the air, and goes over into the water. So when you're watching Ghost and you see that, and I went up there immediately and got him out of the water, and asked if he had any injuries anywhere. Are you okay? He started laughing after the shock of it kind of wore off a little bit, so I ended up giving him a ride back, and we got back, and he's soaking wet. Michael was he's laughing at first, then he was like concerned, like, what happened? And we started laughing, explaining to him what happened, and and everybody started laughing. So, but the kid was all right, but it was kind of a, it was a fun moment to witness.
Oh,
Thankfully, no injuries.
I wouldn't look at that kid the same now. When I watch it next time, I'll just remember your story.
Oh, that's amazing. I think we need a part 2 one day,
Yeah. I remember when I did that thing for those guys over in Australia, MJ podcast or whatever, MJ cast.
Yeah.
When they first talked to me, they said, asked me about doing this. And I said, yeah. And I said, how long do you want me to talk? And they said, oh, at least a couple hours. I go, I can't talk for 2 hours. They said, wait till you start. Well, I mean, this is a subject that I'm very comfortable talking about because I lived it. But I teach classes. I go to the seminar every year. It's all these classes are all about amusement ride safety, and I don't like getting in front of a group of people and teaching a class, especially if it's a class that somebody else prepared. I told Rick, I said, don't ask me to teach somebody else's class, because when I put the PowerPoint up there, when I do a PowerPoint, I know what I want to say. I said, when you do a PowerPoint and I put it up there, I look at it and go, what is he talking about?
Yeah, that's true.
So I think about that when I do these kind of things, but this subject matter I'm so much more comfortable talking about. So I guess it works. You can't shut me. That's why I try not to have too many notes, because I don't want to, I feel every once in a while there's a couple of stories I didn't even write down the happy birthday thing, but that's one I can't help but tell them that one, because
that was incredible.
That and the history. I think last time when I was on here briefly, I don't know if I told that story on here or not, because I was on here briefly when you had when you had Mike and Brad on. Was that with? No, that wasn't with you guys. Who was that with?
When we had Paul Dwyer and you on for History 25.
Oh yeah. Did I tell a story about Earth Song?
Yeah, but not everybody here might have seen that. So tell us that'd be great. Tell us.
Well, so he's been in New York forever and working on history, working with, I think it must have been history, because the stories about Earth Song. So history's not released yet, obviously, because he's been working on it. He comes back, and this is another one of those rare moments when I think we were expecting some guests maybe the next day, and he was there, and he was in the theater. So I went over there just to tell him that the projections wasn't here yet. And he starts talking, well, we just had some like casual conversation, out in New York and this and that. So he starts talking about the history. It's a new CD, blah, blah, blah. And he starts talking about Earth Song. And I'm telling you, he was like, it was another one of those moments where my hair was standing up, because I didn't know anything about it, but I was still I was hypnotized, because I could tell that just from the way he was talking and the look in his I could tell that this was like one important song to him. And that's what he was telling me. He's telling me all about this song. And I'm, of course, like I said, it hadn't come out yet, so I have not a clue what he's talking about. But I could tell how important it was. And he rambled on for, 10 minutes about Earth Song. So now I'm just like, I can't wait to hear it. So obviously I didn't get to hear it till the CD was released, but it was kind of a neat moment for me that he was so excited about this, and he just wanted to share it with somebody. I just happened to be the only person standing around, so he shared it with me. So that, just in case anybody hasn't figured out, Earth Song is a very important song to Mr. Jackson.
Wow, that's amazing.
I rate it right up there with Man in the Mirror. I think that's a very important song. I mean, I never had a discussion with him about it, but whenever I see that song, it tears me up, because I think that was a pretty important song, Man in the Mirror.
Yeah, the way he lived his life, he lived it from the lyrics in that song. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's just it's emotional. It's beautiful.
You want me to dream up some more stories? Let's see. I think I covered everything I was.
Dream.
This is a funny story. It has nothing to do with Mr. Jackson. other than it happened at Neverland. And I think most everybody will get a kick out of it. You have to close your eyes and visualize the theater. And if you see that there's some pictures out there of like the person took it from standing up almost on stage or right by the screen looking at the theater and all the seats. And in the second to last row, there's a wooden, right in the center, there's a wooden console. You can't really tell, but it's got a touch screen, it's got a phone. And Michael used to sit looking at the picture. It would be the left or be the right of the cabinet. That was like his seat. And, so nobody's on property and security is doing some various training. And Violet called me on the phone. Well, called me and had me go to the phone, and she's telling me what they're doing. She goes, okay, we're going to simulate a trespasser on property. And I want you, it was me and Julio, what guy were filming in the park. I think we were the only two in the park that day. Because I want you two guys to find someplace down there to hide. And I'm going to, I'm going to dispatch security and say that, there was a trespasser seen somewhere around the theater or the amusement park, and you need to go check it out. So Julio goes backstage. There was a trap door that went downstairs. It was basically just it was a storage area, but there was also a thing cut in the floor to do a magic act, a piece of the floor that would come out, and a person doing a magic act could disappear and go underneath. And but it was mostly we just had a bunch of stuff stored down there. So Julio goes downstairs, and like I said, there's a trap door to each side, and there's a light switch at each side. And I thought, oh, I got an idea. I'm gonna see how they handle this. So I actually sat in Michael's chair. Now all the lights are out. So I hear the front door open, and it's Curtis, who was like he was a great security guard, real professional, had some military background and whatnot. And I hear the front door open, and I can see a beam from a flashlight flashing around in the lobby, and I hear the bathroom door open and close, and then I hear the projection booth door open and close, and I see the light, and the light shines over my head into the theater a little bit, and I'm almost laughing because I just know when I do this, he is not going to be able to contain himself. He's going to bust out laughing. So I had a plan going on here. So anyway, so he comes in one side of the theater, and he shines his light around, and he doesn't even see me. It's very dark in there, but he's shining it basically down front. Then he goes out, he goes all the way to the other side, and comes in, and he hits the light switch, and all the lights come on. And I'm sitting in the chair, and he gives me the real professional, don't move. What's your name? What are you doing here? And he starts asking me all these, security type questions. And I said, my name was Billie Jean. And I said, Michael's supposed to meet me down here. And where's the projection? I started like just ragging on him about where's the projections? How come the movie hasn't started? Where's Michael? And he couldn't take it anymore. He just busted up laughing. I found one of them. I said, yeah, you call him. I said, and I started, I'm Michael's wife, and blah, 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 blah. I started, it was hilarious. So then now he's looking for Julio. And I didn't get to witness this because I was in the chair just laughing so hard over this. So Julio's down underneath the stage, and Curtis opens up the one door, and I guess Julio could hear his footsteps coming. So he goes over by the other door, and as soon as he opens that door and he goes down inside, he flips the light switch on. Julio goes out the other side and flips the light switch off. And I guess this went back and forth just like in a cartoon 3 or 4 times before Curtis finally caught him. But that was one of those moments that we had at Neverland without Mr. Jackson being there. One of those entertaining ourselves kind of fun moments.
Fun was still going on.
Yeah.
So many
It seemed like a lot of people who worked at Neverland had a child's heart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The purity of heart.
They're like saying
Michael had you there, had you stick around?
People are saying to, like, Mary Faye Perez says, thank you, Al, for all these amazing stories. We're looking forward to your book, all of here and all of fans around the world. See?
Yeah.
Everyone's loving that story. They're all laughing. Imagine you in the dark in Michael's seat. Being Billie Jean.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible. So is there any other questions out there, or what do you think? How do you feel?
Well, there's one question from Mary. She says, how about his kids? Any memories about Michael and his kids on Neverland? Touched on this earlier on, didn't we?
They were very well behaved. They're super cute kids. I mean, last time I saw them, they were, just the youngest one was probably still in diapers the last time I saw them, but they were very, very well behaved, good kids. And they actually knew me as Big Al. A friend that was telling me, he says, see, all those years you should have been teaching them to say Uncle Al. I said, yeah, right. They were a handful. They had fun in the park. And like I said, it wasn't a free for all. They had their park time and they had their movie theater time and whatnot. So. Yeah. But it was fun to see him around them. Because it was such a big deal for him. I mean, he was so happy that he had those kids.
Yeah, that must have been interesting because you saw him when he wasn't a dad, and then you got to see him interact and be a dad.
Yeah.
Did he really blossom?
Yeah. Well, and I think just from prior to having his own kids, I could tell that. Not that I ever really thought about it, but I just, I could tell that he would be a good parent. I mean, he was a responsible person. I mean, he had a vision in his mind of how to be a good parent, and I think he had the right idea.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's beautiful. I suppose that's the bittersweet part of the last part of Michael's life, is that he had his children and they gave him that great joy despite the personal troubles
that
he experienced, but he had his children at that time.
Well, I truly think that he wanted them so badly to see him perform, and I mean, this is it, and to see what it is, what it's all about, what he does, because then they're at the age where they started understanding more about it.
Yeah, that's very very true, very, very tragic that didn't come true for them.
You follow what they're doing? Like, Paris just dropped her first single yesterday, which is a big deal, and the video is perfect for Halloween. It's awesome. Did you watch her video yet?
I have not.
Oh, okay. It was released yesterday, so if you search.
I saw a bunch of things on Facebook about it. I didn't know it was. I thought it was coming out today or whatever.
She's all grown up. That'll be interesting for just to see where she goes. She's an artist, She's on her own path and her own career now. It's pretty amazing to see. So we're at the thing. Let's see what everybody's saying in Facebook here. They're just laughing still, and still just everybody's excited. Okay, I guess we'll maybe wrap it up. I guess if we want to come back, or I'm not sure if you ready to talk some more. If you want to say goodbye, it's totally your call. We're happy to have you here, so it's up to you.
Whatever. If there's any more questions, I'm game for whatever.
Okay. So if any questions out there for Al, if you have any, just pop it in the chat.
I'll tell the Santa Claus story. I need to download more pictures so I can change the background.
Yeah, as you tell the story, you can have a different background. That'd be perfect.
Yeah. Well, there's a picture somewhere out there. I'm sure some people have seen it of Santa Claus riding an elephant. And the elephant is Susie at Neverland Ranch, and the Santa Claus is me. And that was actually a thank you that Susie didn't belong to the ranch. It belonged to a guy named Hayden who does a lot of stuff with animals in the movie industry. And he actually spent a lot of time at Neverland helping the girls in the elephant department, you know, just with training. And elephants like to be in herds anyway. So when his elephant wasn't working, it was like he'd come up and spend time at Neverland. And that elephant, his elephant was extremely well trained, and that helped with training the other elephants. Anyway, so they wanted to do like a little thank you card. And so they asked me about it. Was, even though it wasn't Christmas time, they wanted me to do the Santa Claus suit. So how I wound up with a Santa Claus suit is, and again, I'm sure some of the people out there have heard this story, so I apologize if it's boring, but most people seem to like it. It's so, it was one of those, it was Christmas time, and we rented some extra rides, including we rented a portable looping roller coaster. There was, at the time, there was like 2 in the country, and some friends of mine happened to own one of them. And so the original deal was actually made with one that was in Florida, but I said, you know, there's one in Arizona that would probably cost a lot less to get here. So anyway, we ended up renting the one in Arizona. And but prior to that, you know, we could always count on Christmas being fairly busy. Not so much, we didn't usually do events, but usually if Michael had worked all year or whatever, he would come home, and sometimes, you know, family, friends, whatever. It was usually, you know, there wasn't a lot of people there, but he was there. So everything, and we rented some extra rides. So anyway, this particular Christmas, the phone call from MJJ Productions was, he's going to be working. You guys, if anybody wants to make plans for Christmas, because nobody ever did. I mean, nobody that had to deal with, you know, guest interaction like the amusement park or the chefs or the housekeeper. So so I told all the guys, hey, if anybody wants anything for Christmas. Well, there's only 2 of us at the time on the ranch that could operate the steam train. And of course, the other person that could operate the steam train beside me had tons of vacation time and he had a family in Mexico, so he wanted to go down there. So of course, the day that plane takes off, we get another phone call saying, "I'm going to change the plans. It's going to be the biggest Christmas ever. We need this looping roller coaster. We need this. We need that." So I knew that I was going to have to pack a suitcase and live out there, because I can't. You have to start the train. The steam train has to get fired up about 7 o'clock. It takes. It's not just like I said. It's not. You just don't turn the key on. There's a lot to it. So. And at night when you shut it down, it's the same thing. You don't just turn it off and walk away from it. So I knew it was going to be some very long days. So I said, I'm just going to, you know, pack it. And there was a ranch house down in the zoo. It was an old you know, ranch hand's house, but it was nicely furnished, had satellite TV, and nobody ever used it. So I just moved in. And so on Christmas Eve, now I've had quite a few long days, but again, I'm not complaining. It was a fun place to go to work, and to get to entertain Michael every day and his guests is quite an honor and privilege. But it's like 11 or 11. It's like 11:30 at night on Christmas Eve, and I'd taken the steam trains put away. The lights are all out in the park, and I'd taken a shower. I was in my sweats. I was watching some TV. And the phone rings, and the only people that I believe knows I'm there is the fire department security. And like I said earlier, we had a game in the arcade that was required an attendant. And I thought, oh man, I got to go to the arcade. I'm in my sweats, you know. It's like, so I answered the phone with a little bit of an attitude. What? You know, and it was Michael. He goes, Big Al. He goes, can you? He totally ignored he had a mission. He ignored my rude answering the phone. He goes, can you get a Santa Claus suit by tomorrow morning for Christmas? I'm looking at the phone like, what? I didn't say anything, but well, actually I did say something. I said, you know, not even Michael Jackson can get a Santa Claus suit at 11:30 at night on Christmas Eve. as I said it, I thought, and luckily by this time I developed a good enough relationship with him where he knew I wasn't really trying to be rude or a smartass, but he did say, it was actually, okay, thank you. And hung up. So then fast forward like 6 months and Evie calls me and starts asking me all these questions about, you know, what's your pant size? What's your inseam? What's, you know, starts asking me all these questions. And I'm like, what am I getting fitted for a tuxedo or what? What's going on here? And she goes, Michael Bush is making you a Santa Claus. Or at the time, I'm not thinking, you know, this is like, I don't know, I want to say June probably when they, well, it was months after Christmas, so I'm not, but as soon as she said that, I knew exactly where that was coming from. I knew that next Christmas, I better have that Santa Claus handy Christmas Eve or I'm going to be in trouble. So anyway, I don't know, it was probably about a month later, Michael Bush drove up from LA and we did a fitting of the Santa Claus suit. And so that's how I got the Santa Claus suit.
Amazing. That's like the fanciest Santa Claus suit ever.
I don't have it here with me, but you would have to. If you look at it up close, you can see that, like even the beard. I mean, it's done very nicely. But in the beard, you can actually see there's these clear little snowflakes that have like a mother of pearl. You know, there's just a few of them scattered in there to give it a little bit of bling, and then there's like little red rhinestone beads going down the Santa Claus suit. So.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, he'll make it happen.
It's a nice Santa Claus suit. I still have it.
You still have it?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
At the time when Michael Bush gave it to me, I said, "This is my." He said, "You made this for me. This is mine. If I ever leave here, of course, not thinking I would ever leave there intentionally. I said, if I ever leave here, I'm taking it with me." So, and it was. I mean, it was custom made for me. I don't know who else.
Now we know if you come back and do part 2, then that's what we'd like you to wear.
Oh,
yeah. What a Christmas special. Come back for Christmas. We'll be happy to. You can be in the suit. That'd be amazing.
I got to wear it a few times. We did an event out there. Actually, one of the only times that Michael invited the media out there, it was around Christmas time, and I was in my. If I was going to spend the entire day on the steam train, Mr. Jackson was okay with me being in my engineers, instead of being in my formal suit for like running a ride, I could be in a traditional pinstripe bib overalls with the red rag and the oil can, you know, to look the part of a real steam train engineer. So, and I knew it was going to be a long day and somewhat labor intensive. So I fired up the steam train, did all the, you know, greasing and everything. And I think I even went to the fire department, took a shower, and because it was a, I don't know, I got kind of dirty and sweaty doing all the firing the steam train up. So now I'm in my train thing, and then I get a call. Can you put your Santa Claus suit on and meet the crowd? They're going to be here in 15 minutes or whatever. So so they all parked out there in the bus parking in front of the gate that's behind me, they open those gates and they all come walking in, the little red trains there, and there was I think we had enough room on the red train to fit everybody. Well, there were some kids and then there was some media. And I'm on a bench all the way down at the other end where the train's going to stop. And they're all, I'm sure you've seen this video where Mr. Jackson walks across the bridge with a bunch of these people. Well, one of them was Geraldo Rivera. He was there. Mm-hmm. He's on the front of the train and he came up right away. He wanted to be the first guy to greet Santa Claus. And I thought, oh, I get to meet Geraldo Rivera and he doesn't even know who I am. He just thinks I'm Santa Claus. So I met him and said I had candy there, and my oldest boy was with me, and we handed out candy to all the kids, and then I went and changed back into my train outfit after that. So that was one of the times I got to use. And the next day, I had fun with this. Again, this is only because I had a good enough relationship with Michael. I hope he didn't take it like I was being a smart ass, but the next day, there, because the media was there, Santa Maria Times, the newspaper, they actually were one of the people invited out there, and they got to even bring their cameras and take pictures. So the next day on the Santa Maria Times, there's down at the very bottom, right? Well, the whole front page is a story about, Neverland Ranch and Michael Jackson, this and that. And down at the bottom, there's a picture about, postage stamp size of Michael. And then like the whole top left quarter of the page, it's a picture of me in my Santa Claus suit. So I couldn't wait to show it to him. And hey, I got first billing over Michael Jackson. How did that happen?
bigger section piece of the yeah.
Yeah, well, Santa Claus is more popular, or not, I shouldn't say more popular, but probably, as famous maybe.
Yeah, as famous.
Different reason, but as famous.
We definitely like to see you in that blinged up Santa's costume.
We would love to see it, whether you wear it or not. We just love to see, because it's just, there's always, messages or little details. Like who thinks of that?
I have to remember to bring the styrofoam head that the wig is on. They're painted on. They were brown eyes. I mean, you could tell it. Every time I look at it, I think Michael's looking at me. It's got brown eyes on this styrofoam head for the wig.
I think there's if you had to like pick the qualities and skills that you need to work for Michael Jackson: flexibility, a sense of humor, adaptability, being able to meet deadlines, even impossible ones. I think you could probably write that job description, or that it's a person's specification, isn't it? That's what you could probably.
And I think that actually the years I spent in the carnival business, because the carnival business is absolutely, you're improvising constantly. If you have a ride breakdown and you're someplace where you can't get, you can't wait and order parts, you got to make something do, or if your truck breaks down the side, I mean, you're constantly improvising, and it's not all this sterile environment of like being in a shop. I mean, you have to be willing to have some common sense and think for yourself and whatnot. And I think, I look back on it, I think a lot of that prepared me for working there, because it's, I mean, there were certain days you could count on, everything was going to go as planned, but then there was a lot of days where a simple phone call and everything's changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they don't have an employee's brochure where you say this is your duties. It's like you got to go with the flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An incredible experience.
Yeah, that's right.
Looking for what people are saying here. Oh yeah, they all want to see you in the suit for sure. This is so awesome. We want to see you in the suit. There's lots of, just so you know, there's like 400 and some comments just in our time here. There's lots of comments going on.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, some people are Shirley's like, yeah, the only person more famous than Michael Jackson himself is Santa. So true. Wow.
We do one more question from the group about bubbles. We can't leave bubbles out. So this is the last question we'll take from the members.
Okay.
Do you have any stories about you and Bubbles or any of the other animals on the ranch?
Oh, of course. Well, not Bubbles. I think Bubbles had moved on by the time I got there.
Oh yeah.
AJ and geez, I can't remember. We had 3 or 4 chimps, and during the course while I was there, we ended up with 2 orangutans, and we had quite a nice zoo. But I do have AJ the chimp story. So I didn't know this, but chimps apparently, well, AJ would get extremely excited whenever he'd see me. And I went to the zoo a lot. Whenever we didn't have guests, I had time. I just loved being in the zoo, and we had a really good group of people down there that could educate you on whatever you wanted to know about whatever animal. And so I was really fascinated by the chimps, and I'm down there talking to AJ, and the guy down there says, well, he really likes Pop Rocks, and we had Pop Rocks in the zoo. So I'd come down there and bring Pop Rocks, and so I got after about this.
Pop in your mouth, yes.
Oh, Pop Rocks candy.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, it's just a candy, and you put it in your mouth and it starts popping, and you'll like,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
it's green. If you just hold it in your mouth, pretty soon green foam will start coming out of your mouth. I mean, it's yeah, I don't know if you can find them anymore, but anyway, so AJ loved Pop Rocks. So now after me taking him down there a couple of times, of course, now he just starts going crazy as soon as he sees me, because he knows and I'll hide them in my pockets and anyway, so one day, and Mr. Jackson liked it, depending on the group, depending on how well behaved the group was, he liked them to be able to interact with some of the animals. Well, some of those animals they only want so much. If the group's a little bit too, loud or whatever. So Marvin had AJ down in front of the zoo, and this was a somewhat excited group. And finally, AJ had had enough. And he saw me from way off in the distance, and he like jumped out of Marvin's arms and started running me at a full, and they call it barking, the noise they make. He starts barking, and he's running towards me. And I think, and chimps are very strong and have big, giant, sharp teeth. I think, this thing's going to kill me.
I'd be scared.
It jumps up into my arms like this, and like just, it's like telling me, take me away from all these screaming little kids. And he was holding me like I was his father, He's like, please take me. So I calmed down, and Marvin just pointed like this, so I started walking towards the zoo, and then Marvin got in his golf cart and met up with me. And he was telling me, he said, well, sometimes primates they'll see somebody big, especially if you have facial hair, and they do kind of like a bonding towards him. And so AJ and I became very, 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 very good friends, and I took him Pop Rocks every once in a while. And one time we had a sound crew. I didn't know this was happening, but I got called from the guy in the zoo, and he goes, "Hey, can you come down here?" I go, sure. And I knew there were some people on the ranch, but they were working somewhere, doing some work. They weren't guests. And he said, don't bring the train. He said, park the train. And I was going to bring the train or my golf cart. I said, I think I was going to put the train away, the small train. He says, well, park down by the reptile barn and walk the rest of the way. I go, why? He goes, well, we have some sound guys from Hollywood here, and they're filming, or they're recording the chimp bark. And they've been down here for quite a while, and I can only get them to bark so much, and then they're like, okay, I'm done. What's the deal here? So I know that when AJ sees you, he's going to start barking again. So I want you to walk down the railroad tracks and try and be as quiet, because this equipment they have is very, very sensitive, right? So sure enough, I start walking down the railroad tracks, and as soon as I make that left kind of a left curve towards the primate facility, AJ sees me and just starts going crazy. And these guys have got their big boom mic out there, and they're recording. Well, then once I get up there, he wants me to stick my head up against the cage, and then he'll like they groom themselves. He'll look at my hair and whatnot, and then I was all quiet. They go, we need more. And I said, okay. I said, just get your microphone ready. So I said, AJ, I got Pop Rocks, and he started, again. Well, then, and then I got to give him his Pop Rocks. So I give him his Pop Rocks, and we need more. I said, I got more. I said, AJ, I got some more Pop Rocks in the other pocket. And he starts screaming. So now I'm out of Pop Rocks, and the excitement's all over. And they go, we need more. This is great. And this was actually for one of the Planet of the Apes movies, I think. But so I don't think I got a credit. But anyway. Well, and the reason I asked them about that, because what happened next, they go, we need more. And I go, well, I said, you might not believe this, but in order for me to get him to bark more, I bark at him and he barks back. And then, really? I said, yeah. So I started barking, and he started barking back, and I'm thinking, well, they're gonna have their microphone towards him. They're gonna ignore me. Well, and I got to the point where they're like going back and forth with the microphone. So that's when I asked him. I said, hey, if you use me barking in there, are you gonna give me a credit for this? They laughed.
You didn't get credit.
It was a fun day.
So what happened with AJ? Did he go to a sanctuary?
Primates are, AJ was actually, for a male chimp, he was actually pretty mellow, but the male chimps, when they get to a certain age, it's really pretty dangerous to have them in an environment where you want them to interact with people. Because they can just all of a sudden one day, I mean, they are wild animals no matter what you train them to do or how friendly you think they are. You know, male chimps, when they get to a certain age, they just aren't as much as they used to be.
Yeah.
And it was actually, that was a very emotional day for me because AJ and I had become really good friends over the years. And it was a husband and wife doctor team. I can't remember where they live, but they have tons and tons and tons of money in a giant facility. And what they do is this facility is designed specifically for exotic animals that people took for whatever, took as babies or whatever for whatever reason, then can't handle anymore. And they just take care of them. And, they were both there, and they sedated him and they could see me looking at him. I was holding his hand when he's getting ready, he's looking right at me as he goes out, and then they put him in his transfer cage. And the lady came up and said, she gave me her card and says, you can come up anytime. So and I never have. And they said they don't care how long it is. They guarantee if AJ is still alive, he will remember you.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You have to take some cotton candy to him.
Yeah, pop rocks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stories tonight. Wow, that's just like, take them all in and be like, wow, we've learned so much tonight. I think Jeanette, she's in UK, so it's like, I don't know, 2 o'clock.
After bedtime in the UK.
Yeah. But we would love to have you come back again and share these stories, because this was like, we could do this for 5 hours easy, no problem. We're so thankful that you're sharing your heart with us, and really appreciate it. You have no idea how much we appreciate this. And everybody's just in the chat just like, oh my God, this is the best night ever, and we don't have, we're celebrating his legacy, and for Halloween we wanted to talk about Neverland and how beautiful a place it was. And so we just want to thank you again. And I'm just like going to take these stories and just, I don't know, meditate or something with them. We're all just like, wow.
Next time we see you, maybe we'll have the Santa costume and a draft of the book, the first draft, maybe.
Oh, and Al, I'm telling you, there's some people in chat saying, like, actually, I'm a book editor and all this stuff. I don't know, I glanced at it quickly, but there was somebody messaged or said something in the chat about that. So if you go back and look at the chat, they were talking about that, saying like, oh, I edit books. And so, hey, you got a lot of help here.
Yeah, that's good, because that's a part of it that I probably would be clueless at.
Yeah, just to have them help you out with that. We'll help you with that for sure.
Yeah, let's talk more about that. Yeah,
we will. We can have another meeting just to talk about that and help you out with setting somebody up there. But so I guess we'll take this time to say, good night, and just that, thank you everybody for coming to watch this live broadcast again, and have a safe and amazing Halloween. And don't forget that tomorrow we're going to tweet #Thriller. We're going to get that trending on Twitter. That's a big thing. Taj has said that, so don't forget that. And also there's the Worldwide Thriller Walk tomorrow. Brenda and Siren and some other. It's in charity or fundraising for Michael. What is it? Michael Jackson legacy. Yes, so that's an important thing too. So yeah, so I guess I'll just say good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Al.
It's been magical.
It's been amazing. We're going to rewatch this now. See, this is what happens after Al. Everybody will, well, I will until it gets to YouTube. We're going to rewatch it now. So we can catch everything to see what.
I have a hard time doing that, because I think, what the hell was I talking about?
Well, yeah, it's nice to go back. So we're going to have it on YouTube. So we'll definitely have a link for you there.
Yeah, I have a bunch of friends that for whatever reason couldn't, they're working or couldn't watch it or whatever. So I think there's going to be a YouTube thing available. So
Yeah, we'll definitely send you a YouTube link, and we'll share that with you. And in the group too, we'll share the link. And if you have any pictures that you want to, as a result of this chat tonight, your Santa Claus picture or any of those things, if you want to share them with our group, we'll be happy to do that. If you want to email me, and I can just stick them up there and be like, this is
First thing I'm looking for is the goodbye for now sign. I want to make sure and send that to you now that you understand what I thought was Michael's reasoning for it.
That would be amazing. Oh, that would be just so beautiful to have on our page right now. Well, yeah, that'd be amazing. Thank you so much for that. So thank you, everybody. We'll end it here. Have a good night, Al, and we'll talk to you soon.
All righty. Thank you. And thanks to everybody out there watching.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
Bye.
Bye.